Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is now time for your Smack Attack. That's right, your Smack Attack, because this is a show that has always been for the people, by the people. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Johnny E, in town. Yes, my thing says happy birthday, Dad, because today is my dad's 74th birthday. So happy birthday to my dad. Yeah, he made it to 74 years old. Unlike the Queen, she could make it 74 years. She only made it 70.
Ooh,
Yeah.
jeez. Not even gonna. Too soon.
But ladies and gentlemen, that's my friend the vet right over there next to me. He's joined us on the show today because, by the way, hey vet, this is a conspiracy we have to talk about.
Okay.
James lives in Scotland. The
Mhm.
Queen died in Scotland. Supposedly, James on holiday. Do we know where James McIver is right now?
I don't think we do. All he ever posts on social media is stuff about football, soccer, and one picture of himself trying to take a picture of himself.
Right.
But it seems like the perfect cover to me.
It does, right? You know, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news right here first. James McIver. Just saying.
Yeah, can you account for your whereabouts?
Yes, we need to see proof, James McIver. If you're listening, you better be listening to your own show while you're on holiday. If you're not at least going to be on the show, listen to the show. I do that. I at least listen. I mean, come on, right? I mean,
Right.
but we're always glad to have you here to teach us the
Okay.
ways, to show us where we're wrong and where our opinions are not valid. So thank you, sir, for being here while James is maybe assassinating the Queen. I don't know.
Well, he's done now, so that's
Right.
really even less of an excuse why he can't be on the show. Like, he already completed the mission, so I
Right?
don't really see why I have to do this. But I don't mind. I don't want to say it like that. I mean, of course, I'm happy to do it. Even if it is some sort of regicide involved, but nonetheless, we've got that's a pretty big news story.
Yeah.
Some other things have been happening in the news relative to professional wrestling that I don't know if you've had the chance to speak on yet.
I haven't, but there's the biggest one that involved last night, I think, is Pat McAfee taking a job with College Game Day and now is not on Smackdown for 4 months. To me, that's the biggest travesty of all of this, is that we have Corey Graves for 4 months. That's massive.
Well, I don't really mind Corey Graves. Both those guys are in the same sort of role, which is to provide some sort of wacky comic relief. Now, Corey's comedy is a little less wacky than Pat's. It's a little more subtle. It's a little more inside. It's a little more like, if you're not paying attention, you'll probably miss it. Not that McAfee doesn't do that too, but I don't really mind. I don't really mind Corey that much.
I think for me, it's the energy that they bring. Like, Corey is not the same level of energy or excitement that Pat made it. Even if it wasn't something engaging or intriguing, he made it felt more because of what he brought to it. And I guess that's my biggest thing, especially if we're gonna get stuff. That's where I was like, okay, at least I'm entertained by Pat McAfee, being involved.
Pat McAfee's energy, as you put it, he's got the energy of when you're out with your friend and you're just trying to like be low key and they keep embarrassing you. Like, that's the energy that Pat McAfee brings to the show, which, something as like historically as sort of stuffy and McMahon iron grip, like everything's just so boring and like it's things have got to be a certain way and everybody's walking on eggshells and all that kind of just same old crap week in and week out. He injected like a little bit of chaos into that, which made it entertaining.
Right.
But there's a shelf life to that. Like, once, Pat McAfee will be, like, you will just take him for granted as the guy that, has the energy.
Right.
And so...
So do you think this saves Pat so that if he's off for 4 months and then he comes back, everybody's like, oh, it's so good to have Pat back. So now...
How can I miss you if you don't go away?
Right, exactly. So, I mean, maybe there's some good to this that we do
Right.
appreciate him when he does come back. I don't know, but
Right.
he did sign that long term deal with him, so I just found it interesting that they announced that, and then he got that opportunity. And would this have happened with Vince McMahon if Pat
Yes.
got this opportunity? You
Yes.
think?
Yes, because Pat McAfee does not need them whatsoever. This is
Mm,
a favor to them because he's such a fan of wrestling. He's happy to do the stuff. The first time they try to tell him what he can and can't do, he will let them know how much they are not important in his life in a business aspect. So, absolutely, Vince McMahon would have had no choice. It's just like, he could have just said, all right, well, then I guess this isn't going to work out. That could have been a result,
mm-hmm.
but it's not going to be a matter of, oh, you signed this contract, so you have to do what I say. There's not a chance in hell that this would go to court and anybody, like they're not going to make Pat McAfee do SmackDown. Are you kidding? But I think it's smart, just for the reasons of like, just to change things up a little bit, bring him back, make him special, make him a special attraction. You got to keep him happy. Let him
Mm-hmm.
do football like he loves football and he's turned that into a business opportunity. I don't think Pat McAfee will ever actually need another dollar for the rest of his life,
True.
as long as he's not doing anything ridiculous. But but he's got the money to make those decisions of like, well, I'm not going to spend a second of my life doing something I don't want to do. So if
Makes
I want to do
sense.
College Game Day, I'm going to do that. If I want to do wrestling, I'm going to do that. Uh, you know,
Yeah,
so
and I'll be interested to see how College Game Day handles it in the sense of like, are they going to say WWE announcer Pat McAfee, or are they going to? I mean, do you feel that that's like they're looking at it too? Hey, this is an opportunity for our guy to be on mainstream and a
well,
huge thing.
wait a minute. It's College Game Day is on ESPN, isn't it?
Oh yeah, whatever the Fox version. I think it's the Fox version. I don't remember which one. I think it's the Fox version.
Well, either
Um,
way, he's on the channel. Disney owns all of that. They own Fox. They own ESPN. They own everything. They own everything that Warner Brothers don't own.
well,
So
I think they own Fox the movie. They don't own Fox the channel. They don't own the channel and TV rights stuff. They own the movie stuff. That's how they're able to
I
get.
think they. I'm pretty sure they own almost everything. Now they may not have any production invested into the. They may let that operate independently, but even so, the point is SmackDown's on Fox, and so it's a good. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to promote. Hey, I'm on this show, and I'm from the WWE, or hey, I'm on the WWE, and check out College Game Day, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So I don't know why nobody would have any reason to stop anybody from doing anything. And Liz says College Game Day is on ESPN. So once
Yeah.
again, right about things.
Yes, Liz.
It's why
Yeah.
I'm here. It's
I
why
know.
I'm here.
Yeah, and I mean,
And
I
Liz
couldn't
is
remember
awesome.
which one it was. Yes, Liz is awesome. If y'all haven't seen some of her stuff that she posts, like crafty stuff, she makes some really cool crafty stuff. So, but yeah, it's either way. It's just the idea that that he's got a major, I guess, bigger outlet to outreach to, you know, different crowds that maybe would not. Hey, I like this McAfee guy. Wait, he does wrestling. Well, what's that all about? You know,
What is wrestling?
well, I mean, like,
I've made it 20 years on this planet. I've never heard of such a thing.
dude, you'd be surprised sometimes where I would talk to people. I'm like, wrestling. I've never watched a bit of it. I don't even know what's it about. Like, is it that WWE stuff? I mean, when I started wrestling and watching wrestling in college, my dad had not seen a lick of it, and my dad was what 50 something years old and not seen a lick of professional wrestling in his entire
Well, he
life.
must have known it existed.
He
Just
did,
didn't
but
watch it.
like he didn't. He was just like, "Oh, is that fake stuff?" Like you know, that's what he said. And I mean, he would shit on it for a long time. Then he went to a live show and was like, "Hey, this is really cool. I like this." So, but then that was my dad was what late 60s when he finally went to a live show and
Hmm.
came around to watching and saying, "Okay, I can understand this a little bit." It took him that long to do that. And so like I'm aware that people understand wrestling, but hey, this guy can kind of maybe get me to watch wrestling. That aspect of it,
And I don't know what that I really don't know how that works, but it's got to happen, right? At some point. Like
Yeah.
everybody becomes fans in different crazy ways,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it would be weird to think like, oh, I'm going to watch wrestling just cuz this announcer on this football show is an announcer on wrestling, but I mean, sometimes that's all it takes just to get that one, and then you'll get captured by something else. I don't know if you're going to sit and watch a bunch of stuff you hate just because Pat McAfee's calling it, but you never know. So.
Yeah, but let me like my dad really became fascinated with it when we're at the venue. A board in the ring breaks for a match, so they have to kind of wait and take as they finish the match. They have to take the ring apart, get the broken board out, put a new one in. My dad, we're with VIP Wrestling here in Texas, and they have a deal where you can pay for VIP seating where you're inside the arena, so you're walking and you can touch the guys. There's no barricade. So my dad is watching them do that, and he's sticking his head in there while they're trying to work. I'm having to pull my dad away from the ring, going, "Dad, let them work. Stop it!" But he's a mechanic at heart, and so he loves how things work and how they fix it. And so he's fascinated by that and the ring structure and how it works. Like he would be on the ring crew because he just thought that was the coolest part. And then he's like, okay, and the wrestling was fun too. That's what got my dad to like wrestling was a board breaking and watching them repair. So like you said, there's weird things that get people going.
Do you remember what it was for you? The initial hook. Can you remember that far back or?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't start till college because we didn't have cable.
You didn't start till college.
I didn't start till college. I had a vague recollection of wrestling. I knew of Hulk Hogan, but I'd seen Rocky and he was Thunderlips. It's like, wait, didn't that whole Hogan? Oh, it's a movie. And because I'd seen the cartoon, show that they had the for a little bit. But it wasn't prevalent in my life because I was playing sports and we didn't have cable. My dad was staunchly against cable, and then all the kids move out, and all of a sudden he gets cable. I don't know. That's my dad. So it was. I'm at college. I'm watching Monday Night Football, and it was a real shit game. So I just flipping the channels to find something else to watch, and all of a sudden I see Hulk Hogan, and it was right around the time it was right at the Monday Night Wars, and he's turned heel and gone to the NWO, and I was like, what is this? Like he came, I was there for the turn. Like he comes out the back.
So you never knew of Hulk Hogan as anything but a heel. All you saw was Rocky 3 Thunderlips and then NWO Hogan.
Well, I knew like I said, the cartoon, so I knew he was supposed to be a good guy. He was supposed to be a good guy. So he comes out in it was right at that turn where he was going to turn to the NWO. So he comes out and you're thinking he's going to help join the good guys, and then he turns around and does the turn, and he's with the NWO. I was like, what is happening right now? Like I thought he was a good guy, and that's where I got hooked on board. And then somebody's like, oh, well, you got to see what's going on Raw. This guy is beating up his boss. I'm like, what? Yeah, Stone Cold is beating up Vince McMahon, who is the owner. I was like, wait, the announcer guy? Because I could remember, him being an announcer. Like, he owns the WWF? And I was like, okay. So I was flipped back and forth between WCW and WWF watching those two storylines. So I was like, okay, that's where I got hooked, was there. It was in peak Monday Night Wars, so 90, 97, 98, 99, that era, when I'm starting college, going in, all that stuff. So
there was a little bit of gap there because 96 is when Hogan does the turn. Guys like Stone Cold and The Rock are like 2 years away. They're there, but they're not them.
Yeah,
they're the ringmaster and Rocky Maivia stuff.
Okay.
So there were like the WWF was still stuck in the cartoon bullshit for a little while before they got really hot.
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember the time frame. I just remember those were the times that I was watching and flipping back and forth to seeing those things. How they happened, I don't. I'm shit with time.
Interesting. A full-grown man. Most people, in my experience, are like kids get into it either through a parent or grandparent or something, get really hooked on it, age out of it, and then they either come back or don't. Like there's this period where everybody takes a dip out, right? Right around preteen-ish era, usually anywhere from, like 10, 11, 13, 14. Even sometimes like with me, it wasn't even that I felt like I outgrew it. It just, for some reason, I just didn't watch it. I kind of followed along with it a little bit, but I was no longer watching it on TV. I didn't make any conscious decision to like say, I'm too old for wrestling. It just one of those weird things. But I'm like that sometimes. Like I'll play, like for video games, for example, I'll start a game and I'll just stop playing it one day. It won't be any good reason. I'll just be like, I'm done for today and I'll play it again later. Later never comes. Then like 6, 8, 9 months, a year and a half down the road, I'm like, hey, I never finished that game, and I'll just pick it up. I won't start it over. I'll just figure out wherever I was when I left off. That kind of thing. I do that. I don't know why. It's just something in my wiring that does that sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Yeah. Wrestling was like that. I missed a period in the early 90s. Somewhere around 91 to 94 got really hazy. Mm-hmm. And then it picked back up again with the 95 Rumble. Because my uncle had, he was like one of those, he had one of those, let's just say his box was not, his cable box was not above board entirely. Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, I just got the Royal Rumble. You want to watch it? And I was like, sure. And I watched it. And of course, that's the famous Shawn Michaels 1 foot, and I was like, holy shit. So, I was more familiar with, I saw a little bit of Shawn Michaels doing the Sherry Martel deal, like where she was coming out with them, a little bit of that, a little bit after the Rockers breakup, but not really following along that much. I was aware of who Diesel was, not really, but like I kind of somehow I followed all this even without watching it. I don't know how I did it, but then from 95 on, I've been dialed in like 100%. So. But my earliest memory, not that anyone asked, was
I was about to ask, but you kept going.
Okay, which I don't know what my earliest memory is. I don't have a memory before knowing what wrestling was and who wrestlers were. So I had to have been somewhere around 3 or 4 years old. Like whenever you don't remember, like you know what I mean, like
right, yeah.
Because when I remember remembering. It seems like I already knew who everybody was. Not just like the superstars, but the guys like the job guys like Steve Lombardi before he was the Brooklyn Brawler and the Purple
Scott
Trunks,
Armstrong and all that.
Yeah, guys. Or like who else was Tom Stone was another, like Iron Mike Sharp. Like I knew all those guys even before I was in school. So like I must have watched it before kindergarten at some point for a long time. But I remember my first favorite wrestler was George the Animal Steel. Simply because he tore the turnbuckle open and ate it and the stuffing came out. And I just, as a small child, I was like, this is the craziest, best thing I've ever seen in my life. So he was just my favorite, So that's what did it for me. Unless it was something else that I just don't remember. But That's the first time I remember.
So this is a fascinating question. So you were a fan. At what point, what was your memory of the first time you're like, I want to become a wrestler? Like, where was that for you?
That's a great question that no one ever asks me, because I don't know if it's just that it doesn't occur to them or they're not interested, but it's something that I've kind of wanted to talk about on one of these shows, but it's always like off topic, right? We gotta talk about Smackdown, but we can kill a few minutes.
Yeah.
But like what I want to say, like this may come as a surprise to a lot of people, but you know how everybody in wrestling always says, I had a dream. I dreamed of being, even Pat McAfee, I had a dream of being a professional wrestler. Oh, so you play football? Okay.
Yeah,
so, right, you know what I mean? Like, if you really had the dream, I feel, Brock Lesnar, I had a dream to play professional football. Well, then you should have gone into that instead of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, all these people with their dreams. But you hear a lot of wrestlers say, it was my dream to be a wrestler. They say, I knew in that moment that I wanted to be a wrestler. Daniel Bryan talking about Ultimate Warrior and him getting inspired to do that stuff, or just like you hear all the time about right when wrestlers knew they wanted to be a wrestler. I never wanted to be a wrestler. At no point did I ever want to be a professional wrestler. All I loved it since I was a little kid. Like I said, since before I can remember, and I was perfectly content to let other people do it and me watch. I never had any intention of saying this is something I want to do. I was also, though, one of those kids that didn't know what he wanted to be when he grew up. I wasn't sure. I didn't have a clear path, you know? And long story short, because it is a long story and a very interesting story, but the short version is it got to a point where my life, because of certain events, reached a crossroads and I had to make some decisions. And I kind of thought, you know, so one thing I wanted to do at that time was WrestleMania 20 was coming up, right, in Madison Square Garden. And I thought it would be really cool at that point in my life, because I sort of had the means to and the time to and the situation lined up. I thought this would be a cool thing to do. I've never been to WrestleMania. I could go to one. I could go to take a trip to New York, see New York, those kind of things. It would be a 20th anniversary special. I go to the Garden. I've never been to the Garden. You know, it'd be a lot of cool things to do, just to do, like as a fan, as a tourist, or whatever. And of course, if anybody's ever tried to get WrestleMania tickets around that period without knowing a guy, yeah, it just doesn't happen, right? So, anyways, but then after that failure, I kind of recontemplated. I was like, well, actually, I think doing something involved in the industry would be kind of cool, like a career path, like to go on this career path and do something. I don't know what, but I want to contribute. I want to give back. I want to, you know, even just as a fan, I felt like I wanted to give back. Like, what can I do to help professional wrestling? WWE was really like the main thing at that time. You know, WCW was already gone. So there was nowhere else really that you would look at. So to me, the WWE was the whole business. And I thought, what can I do? So, you know, you hear about OVW, you're like, what do they do? I think if I want to have any influence, I have to have the people's respect. So I need to have the training. I need to understand who these people are, what they do. So I will go through the process of it, and then maybe somewhere along the way, I'll figure something out. What can my role be in this? Whatever that may be. I don't know. Naive and young at the time, thinking these things. But so I showed up for OVW, and I thought it was a 3-month program. It turns out it's kind of an indefinite program for the beginners. Like, they'll let you out when they think you're good enough. And so, you know, yada, 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 a bunch of stuff happened. And here we are today. But initially, never had any designs on being an actual wrestling performer. I just thought if I learn to be one, at least no matter what I do, I will have the respect that a lot of time in the guys in the industry you don't see get the same respect. You know, like, you know, would people be calling Tony Khan a money mark if he had ever been like an independent professional wrestler of some stature or renown? Like, if he had gone through with something and done it, would they have more respect for them than they do today? You know, things like that. Like, I didn't want to be in that position where everybody's like, you don't get it, you know? I want to be like, no, I do get it. I care. I care that much that I'd be willing to put myself through that to be a part of this, even in a small way.
Right.
You know, later, you know, as it went on, I found out, I didn't know that not only you guys not looking for help, you don't even want ideas from the people that already work for you. So I'll just bow out. I see that this was a mistake. I've gotten my education. So now here I am, like, I've gotten my Harvard diploma and no place to put it.
Right.
And until, you know, fast forward a number of years, and then the opportunity came up with HMG, which I'm very grateful to Ben Hameen for inviting me onto the platform.
Yeah. And I am, because that means I have a co-host for the Smack Attack. So thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your story. I know you don't get often to share that a lot, so I thought that's very, very neat. Well, maybe I have to break down one day and just have a Smack Attack on a shitty Smackdown where you just tell us everything, and that would be, I think, fun.
Yeah, maybe a series one, maybe a special series. You know, you never know. Like, we could do like something separate just just doing like a profile or
Yeah.
whatever it could be. Like, I mean, if the people are interested, if no one cares, I don't care. But it is, even if I say so myself, I do think what I was going through at the time and my mindset would make people see a lot of the things that I say in a different way and provide more context to it, as well as how I can relate to them, being that I mostly only ever wanted to be you guys. I just wanted to be a fan. I just want to sit and watch stories told to me. I don't care if it's wrestlers, movies, music, video games, whatever. It's just tell me a story, and I'm fine with that. I'm the kid sitting cross-legged on the carpet, just waiting to be entertained. And it's at one point, imagine that era of 2004 or 2003, 2004-ish level creative, for me to be sitting there on the couch and then being like doing like the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet, like, fine, I'll do it myself. Like, get up, move across the country. Like, how I thought it was bad then. I didn't know it could get as bad as it's gotten.
Well, but I think that's interesting that you talked about too, that you took the bump so that you could have the respect. One of our training schools here in Dallas, VIP Wrestling, the DFW Academy that Lou runs. If you're going to be if you're going to be an announcer, a manager, if you're going to be involved at all, you take the beginner course and take bumps, and you do all those things. You learn to take bumps before you even go to be an announcer or anything else. You do that first, because Lou says then at that moment you realize what it takes to be a wrestler, so that you can speak on it properly. Which I like respect that he goes, okay, doesn't matter what you do or where you're going to be in my organization, you're going to take beginner's class and you're going to take the bumps so you can know what you're talking about. Which I'm like, oh, that's smart. I like that. And so, I think that, again, I like the idea of a profile. Maybe we talk to Ben and we, highlight you, Ben, Stevie, different people, get their different stories, because I think that's the fascinating thing. You all do this common thing of wrestling, telling stories, but you're coming from different places and different reasons of why. And that's fascinating because I love hearing people's stories. That's just a great part of that. So,
you're right, because also you can turn on any podcast or whatever and get a review of this episode of Smackdown.
Right.
But you can't hear my story anywhere else. You can't hear Stevie Richards' story anywhere else, except anybody else that's covered Stevie Richards' life. But you couldn't hear it directly from Stevie himself.
Right.
You could hear it directly from Ben. You would hear how the paths would intersect, like where I was at OVW when Ben came in. Right. And then you get the story from each perspective of like, what is the first impressions of these people? I have no idea. It's so crazy because I have no idea what people's impressions were of me, because a lot of the time I suppose I could have been considered aloof, not actively, like I would be standoffish with people or I would be away from people, but I minded my own business and I assumed a lot of other people wanted to do the same. And whenever I found myself with somebody else and we're not minding our business, I got along with everybody. But I have no idea what they really thought of me. They probably had no idea. Nobody that ever had heat with me knew that they had heat with me. I kept that very close to the vest, because it's wrestling, man.
Right.
And that's one of those things that you can't learn just because you hit that mat a few times and take some bumps. That is not going to teach you everything you need to know. Right. It may teach you that this shit is not a fucking mattress, but it's not going to teach you how to swim with the sharks and all that other stuff that, is the real underbelly of the business. And one of the reasons why I said, yeah, I don't need to go through this. Fuck all of you. Yeah. You all can do that with each other. I'm not interested, but
yeah. Hey, and I personally, I think it's a great idea. Hey, so boss, if you want to get on this, let's do it. Let's figure it out. I don't mind hosting it. I think it'd be fun. But do you want to, before we get started, shout out to the chat, Candace Spaceman, #1 today for chats as always. The Elizabeth, and looks like Jerome is here. We got like 8 people, and the vet shows up, and everybody takes off.
Oh,
Lab
that's
Rat,
just a coincidence.
yeah, Lab Rat's here. I even think I saw a Colin Wysong appearance.
Oh, he certainly was there. Trying to put himself over, talking about first day of jujitsu classes. We basically take bumps. Shut up, Colin.
Yeah.
Shut up. No one cares about your jujitsu. Your
we
pajama wrestling.
Yeah, COVID Colin, as we call you now, apparently.
Yeah.
So shut up, COVID Colin. Love you. That's always my thing. I'll give him an insult and say love him because I got to be positive.
More than he deserves anyway.
Yeah, well, nobody loves him anyway, so I'll give him a little bit. But I guess we need to get started with SmackDown. I don't have anything else because the biggest thing was James and the Queen. So
there was that other thing that happened over in AEW. I don't know what it was. Wardlow successfully defended the TNT title.
There you go.
So we want to give a big shout out to Wardlow. Nothing else happened over there at all. Nothing of note. Nothing interesting.
I don't have any take. I mean, personally, I just thought, man, this CM Punk is a cancer. It seems like everywhere he goes, he's not a good dude. I just found it weird that, and I saw some of the thing, and I understand that, but you have to understand, you and Colt Cabana, like how you could talk shit on Colt Cabana, I don't know, and just kept going and going. And Tony Khan not saying, okay, let's stop, let's move on. Tony just kind of sitting there.
He can't though. Tony can't do it. This is like, remember, this is the white whale. He landed the white whale. This is Captain Ahab speared Moby Dick and is dragging him behind the boat. You're not going to cut him loose. You're gonna just let the whale drag the ship down.
But
that's what you're gonna do.
You're gonna kill your ship. So yeah, I don't know.
Or everybody's just blowing this out of proportion like they always do.
Yeah,
it is a big. Not that it is a big deal. Yeah. But every time anything happens, everybody says this is the end of AEW. It's like, how many ends of AEW are there going to be, man?
Well,
we were just saying that it was the end of AEW when Punk and Moxley ran that angle where Punk got beat really quick, and then everybody was like, finger poke of doom. Yeah. It's over. It's over for AEW. AEW's done. This has been going on since they started. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're the new Impact on what this is going to kill, whatever. Which, by the way, if you're not watching Impact or the Impact Attack, you're missing out. Both have been very stellar. So
I hear there may be a special guest coming to the Impact Attack soon.
Maybe. I did watch BTI this week, and you can see me at the very end with the Shane Taylor match. So So if you're watching BTI on YouTube, you can go and watch the Shane Taylor match, and you might see one of us. I'm not going to say who, but is at the tapings for that. So
you wouldn't catch me dead at an Impact taping.
Even if it was free tickets?
Especially if it's free tickets.
Okay. All right.
You mean I don't even, like, a portion of the proceeds don't even go to Moose? No. Thank you, no.
Well, they didn't have any merch for Moose, so a portion of the proceeds didn't go to him either.
God damn it. Sons of bitches.
So, yeah, that was... so at one point, I may be making an appearance on the Impact Attack to talk about my experience at the Impact tapings. But it was... but all that said, as I said, we're glad to have you here, but we probably need to get started. AEW...
Fine.
I'm just kind of whatever. It's... I watched Rampage last night afterwards just to see. I found it interesting they took out the Bucks and CM Punk and Kenny and all that, but yet they had Malachi Black still in the intro for Rampage last night. So, I'm like, okay. I mean, I know he's asked for a mental health removal or whatever. I don't know, to be released, but yet you have him on you. But you took those other guys out real quick. But the guy who's asked to leave, you're just like, okay. So, and that's the other thing. If you do go to the tapings, Vet, you won't see the lights. So
yeah, I see where Liz was saying that, and as usual, she has a strong point.
Yes.
However, counterpoint, I don't care.
Yes. So, but yeah, let's get started. So last night, 9/9, 2022, in case you weren't watching, we had the start of Smack Attack where Pat McAfee's departure was mentioned, that, he's got an opportunity for football and he's going to be gone for about 4 months. They didn't say exactly 4 months, but that's been in the news that he's going to be gone for about 4 months. So we get Corey Graves. Corey Graves last night, I'm going to say overall, not same energy, but he was more subtle than he has been when he's filled in before. He wasn't as forceful trying to be something.
He doesn't have Byron Saxton to yell at, so that's one thing.
True, yeah. I mean, nobody's going to yell at Michael Cole unless you're Pat McAfee, and that, I mean, again, that's where I'm like, Pat McAfee has raised the level of Michael Cole, who was coasting for a while, and that's my concern is with Corey Graves. Is he going to go back to coasting, or is he going to be reinvigorated by Pat, and so he's going to be doing his thing again?
No, I mean, Michael Cole can do this stuff in his sleep, and he has. As long as he doesn't have to placate the old man, it won't matter. He'll be more tolerable than
that. So we start off with, of course, clips from the Clash of the Castle. Vet, I didn't get.
Oh yeah, you didn't get to watch Clash at the Castle, huh?
I did not, because I was at my parents, and they don't have. I mean, they have cable, but they don't have pay-per-view or anything like that. I saw some highlights, but so I saw the Solo Sikoa, stop because the Usos weren't there and Sammy wasn't there, but there was that. I did see some of the other shenanigans went on. From everything I've heard, it was a pretty good pay-per-view. It was all right. But I have no opinion on that. But that's where I think your opinion will be.
Okay, yeah, I do have those. So like what I liked the most about Clash at the Castle was the overall presentation and feel and atmosphere. The crowd provided a lot of the atmosphere, no doubt. There's no way that the WWE could make them do or not do anything. But on the WWE's part with the production, everything from just the camera shots that they used and everything, and the timing of everything in terms of like the broadcast really made each match feel like a big deal, like you were watching a match that is important for you to be watching, which a lot of times we don't get that. Pay-per-view has never usually been a problem for the WWE. The biggest thing that you would nail them for is it's too long. They've had some 5, 6, 7 hour extravaganzas and stuff in the past, and we're not even talking about when you're breaking things up into 2 nights. We're talking about single night, marathon sessions. So that's usually been the knock on that. The presentation has always been quality, but I don't know about you, John, but for me, the one thing that I would get watching WWE pay-per-view live events, premium live events, anything you want to call it, is I felt like the matches were mostly good, regardless of the booking of where they're going with the angles and stuff. But just like if you're watching just the in-ring product, the matches were mostly good, a good baseline level of quality. But I always felt like, so what? Because I know it's not going anywhere interesting storyline-wise, and I feel like even on the show in itself, it feels like it's so unimportant. Like we are just having this match because we said we would, and then we're going to move on to the next one, and then that's going to happen, and then the next one. With Clash at the Castle, everything felt like there was like some weight to it.
Right.
And, and that's what's been missing from WWE. Like, why are we even watching this? That's what comes with having to have an event every single month rather than like big events like you used to, big 4 or 5 events per year that you build up to. Even back in the day when you were doing In Your House, like some of those In Your House matches were just kind of thrown on the card, but at least the main event seemed like, oh yeah, I want to see this. I want to see, Austin versus The Undertaker at, what Cold Day in Hell or whatever, even though that match sucked. And I did a watch along of it, and I didn't realize how bad it sucked when I did a watch along of it. But after I did a watch along of it, I realized how bad it sucked. So my point is, Clash at the Castle, I really felt came across as if you were a sports fan, like let's say in the situation that you posited earlier about being a college football fan that may tune into a WWE event to see Pat McAfee or what the WWE is all about, and you watch Clash at the Castle, this resembles a sporting event as opposed to just some bullshit that they're just speeding through because they got a lot of matches to do.
Right.
You know? And so I really like that. I would recommend you to go back and watch Walter and Sheamus. That is an excellent match. As you
I heard it got 5 stars.
As if that mattered, but yes. It whatever rating scale you want to use is you're probably not going to get much better than it. Especially not in the WWE these days. So yes, they did have that. But I also would like for you to, check out like the main event a little bit, even if you don't want to watch the whole match, but to go see what I'm talking about, to sit there and take in the feel of the atmosphere of the place with the crowd getting anticipated for, they're anticipating Roman and Drew to, what's going to happen here. Like you really get a good feeling. The crowd really was the sixth man in the situation. So
sure.
Overall, they kind of healed on the crowd because I don't think one babyface went up that night. The Bailey's team went over. Walter went over. Only Liv Morgan won. That was the only, and that crowd probably didn't want her to win. They probably wanted Shayna to win. So even though the babyface technically won, they screwed the crowd on that. Roman obviously walked out with the belts. Riddle went down to Seth Rollins. Like this was a feel good first stadium event in 30 years. Blah blah blah. And fuck you, all your heroes are gonna lose. So that in some ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
But overall, I had a positive feeling watching it, and that's also coming from a guy that during that weekend, I must have watched a minimum 10 hours of mainstream wrestling just to cover the shows that happened that weekend.
Wow.
And so I did not want to watch it. So that's coming from a guy that has that attitude saying, yeah, thumbs up, Clash at the Castle.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's I think I've seen I watched, I just because I was interested to see really what they're going to do. I saw a little bit of the Shayna Liv Morgan match, and I was going, "Oh my god, really?" Like that one. I feel like that's the heel one in that one because nobody really wanted Liv to have the title anymore, and it felt that the match was weird, but like you said, the energy of the match, the energy of the crowd, everything that was going on was just like, holy cow! Like they made it feel like a big time event, and. I know they did. They pushed it. They really made it like it's a big time event. WWE did, but boy, that crowd just made it feel like that felt like WrestleMania. It felt like something massive. And I think James and I kind of talked about it a little bit before he left on for vacation. He's like, how cool would it have been if they could have done it like the Raw after Monday in like Wembley Stadium or something like that, just to kind of like have that like post. Clash of the Castle feel, and I said, well, first of all, you'd have to run on a Sunday, and because they ran on a Saturday. But I understand what you're saying. You stay there, you do that, you let us have a live event at our time, and then it gets recorded for you. But we do something along those lines. How cool would that be? And I said, well, I mean, that'd probably be cool, but they're not going to do it. TV's not going to dictate that. I said, I do know that, like. It's back in the day. I don't know if it's still the case because my thing degrees in broadcasting, so we learned a lot about broadcasting in general. And actually, wrestling was brought up in one of our TV production things about like with that contract, WWE gets so many tape shows a year back in the day, where they had so much live programming, and they were given just a couple that didn't include getting bumped for like Westminster or different things along those lines. Those things that they chose to bump were outside of their contract, but they had to have so many live dates fulfilled, and then they could fill in with tapes for like holidays or things like that. And I don't know if that's still the case or not. And I said, that's the one thing I would be interested in seeing, if that's the case, where that's why they don't do that anymore, why they don't do a Raw in London or a Smackdown in Edinburgh, because it's going to be tape delayed. And he's like, well, what's the deal? Some of this stuff is. I said, well, WWE is live. That's where they're at, and that's where they're making their money, and that's what like Fox is paying for.
And that's what's killing them, because then they can't. I don't want to get into a whole other thing, but
yeah,
going live for 5 hours a week, which only sometimes, because last week's SmackDown wasn't live. No. It couldn't have been. That would have been one hell of a plane ride.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. Another thing is, if you just when they do those kind of like post WrestleMania Raws and things like that, it's obviously not in the same spot. Right. You're not going to hold the Raw in the stadium. But if you did, it would be like a little bit less special about the event. See, right now, those people in Scotland over there, they think they got a very special, unique treat just for them.
Well,
if you were to just have whatever. Who cares? But
their queen is dead. Who cares?
Yeah, we're not worried about that anymore. But seriously though, wherever they were, they felt special. And then if you just have another Raw, turn around the next night and have a Raw or whatever, it's like, well, this is just like, I just had this. You can't top this feeling. You got to get out and leave them wanting more, and I think there's something to that as well. Right. A lot of the times when they would record stuff overseas after they'd done like a big show, it's really just because it's like, well, we need a show and we're already here and we already got the stuff set up, so let's do it. But
I mean, at the same time, haven't they really left them wanting more for so long? I mean, not really having much over there. Like I said, this first stadium show in 30 years, and they do live shows. And
as a success, I'm sure they'll come back next year. It could be a yearly event, the yearly Clash, or every once in a while, every 2 years, every 5 years, whatever they feel like they want to do. But I mean, stuff like this, though, this has to get set in motion long in advance.
Right.
So we can't give credit to the new regime for this or anything like that. Only for the actual presentation day of,
True.
And that's what I'm interested in seeing going forward, because supposedly there was some scuttlebutt or talk of having like another like Thunderdome like setup. Not so much Thunderdome, but more like friggin' Universal Studios TNA era. Like, we're gonna have this building and we're gonna tape, we're gonna do Raws and Smackdowns from this one building and stop touring. You know what I mean? To save costs on that.
Right.
And I don't know if they're really going to do that anymore. But supposedly that was the talk at one time. I don't know about that either.
Would NXT be the efficacy of that? Where they meet at that one, I don't know if it's the Performance Center or wherever they're at, and they have the people coming there. And, I don't know. I guess NXT is either not losing nearly as much money or maybe even making money. I don't know whether financials are on that, but it's not. I know for a long time it was hemorrhaging money for what it was trying to do, but now is that, I guess, a case in like a proof of concept that we could have shows, we could have for 2 or 3 months, we can do recordings at these different places in the studio setting, and then go from there. Take some time off, give our guys a way, a kind of an off season time off where everybody's just chilling at one place, recording and doing bits. People are coming, and then we can go back out for a little bit.
Proof of concept, I don't know if I would use that phrase, because I don't know what it really proved in the end. Like, I don't even know if it really proved the concept. Like, we've got the precedent of people coming in for tapings and stuff like that and not costing them any money, like with WCW, at Disney World or whatever, and like and TNA, Universal Studios and things. And then now with NXT doing their same thing from the Performance Center. Okay, sure. But that's such a smaller scale of what we're talking about. We're used to seeing Raws of like, 10 to 15,000 people in there.
Sure.
And the whole thing about wrestling is, regardless what anybody thinks, whether they own this platform or not, wrestling is not a TV show. It's a commercial for a live event.
Yeah.
They want you to come out to the building and see something you can't see anywhere else, right?
Sure.
That's why the circus was never a TV show. Like, can you imagine if you could just turn on the TV and be like, oh, there's an elephant, there's a clown, there's an acrobat. Okay. The circus would have been out 100 years ago rather than just whenever they just quit touring recently, right?
Right.
But it was going to it and experiencing it and seeing it for yourself. That's the draw. Wrestling's kind of the same way. Live wrestling's different. You know that. You go to these local events and stuff, and you've also been to big spectacle events. So you see how, like, that is the attraction of it. If you take that away from people and you make it no different whether you sit at home on TV and see it, or if you just file in because, hey, we're papering this event so that this small stadium can be full for Monday Night Raw every week in the same town.
Right.
Like, what kind of atmosphere can you get from a crowd like that? A lot of the knock on the TNA crowds was just like, this is a theme park crowd.
Sure.
They're not that into it. Does WWE really want to jeopardize having that, that come across on television? Like, oh, these people are so fucking bored to be there. I'm not going to go pay for this if they come to my town.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I mean, I agree with you that you're selling for the live events. And I would even say the pay-per-views, because then you're getting the live audience plus the people to buy at home. And that's really where your focus should be. And
you want people to buy it at home and watch it on TV because they can't be there. But when they can, oh man, you better believe there's going to be standing room only, and there's going to be people that are turned away at the door because we can't wait for the WWE to come to town.
Right.
I really don't think that's a problem for them right now.
No.
And that's because you go there, and some of the time with all these pre-tapes and shit like that, you go and sit there and watch TV. Mm-hmm. Like, when I go to Monday Night Raw and I watch these backstage vignettes and shit, it's like, I could be doing this at home in a more comfortable seat.
Right.
Less drunk people yelling. I mean, in my house there could be drunk people yelling, but there's definitely still less than, my local arena. So
right. True.
Yeah, you gotta create the atmosphere of, I gotta go see this, I gotta be there, I gotta be in the building. And I think Clash at the Castle does a good job of that. And they gotta keep that going forward and try to make those events feel special to reinvigorate the brand that has turned a lot of people off for being stale for so long.
Sure. And that's probably the biggest uphill battle, is turning that image around and making it happen. And then SmackDown starts with that. They start with Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch versus Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci, or as we like to call them, Imperium. Thank God they kept that, and they brought the music back, and are working on doing that. So they did a trios match or a 6-man match. It's not a trios match because there's rules in a.
Is it for a title? Is it for the new WWE trios title?
No, it's not. It would be a 6-man title because there's rules, sir. There's rules in a 6-man trios. There are no rules. But basically, they're rerunning this back from Clash of the Castle because if I was reading, I know they said Meltzer gave it 5 stars. This is the first 5-star match that WWE's had in like the last 10 years, I believe, or something like that. That they've had. So why not start the show with these 3 guys going at it again? Because it's kind of what you had at Clash of Castle. So hey, let's do it again, but this time we'll put them all in the ring in a 6-man match. And I mean, again, like I said, I saw some highlights from Sheamus and Walter. I haven't seen the whole match, but that just continued. The brutalness, the strong style, everybody just chopping the crap out of each other, hitting things. I mean, this was, again, something different that you don't see on WWE very often. This was a European New Japan strong style match that, nothing else compared to when you watch the rest of the match. And I feel like that's what wrestling should be. There should be matches on here that everybody's going to go, well, that was different. That was different from this one, and this was unique in that aspect of it. I appreciate the fact that they're slowly working guys back to what they were. Butch is still being called Butch, but he was in his Pete Dunne gear. He was out of the hat. He was out of that goofy pants and everything. Yeah. He was in his gear. Rich Holland was in gear that he had kind of originally been in. And then, with Imperium, they had matching shorts for the two guys and Walter. And so back to that kind of, we're slowly giving that nod to, all right, we know what made them good. We're bringing it back. But overall, I enjoyed this match. Honestly, it was a hot start to the match. I feel like the sad part was this was about as good as it got as far as matches went for the rest of the night. But that's just my opinion, Vet. How am I wrong?
I don't know if you're wrong, but I would just point out that they did a very smart thing here, which if you notice the way the match was structured, it was teasing Walter and Sheamus getting back at it and then not doing it.
Right.
Now this was an odd choice to have the moment where they both tag in and then they go to break. I don't know what the fuck that was about.
Yeah.
Because when you come back, it's just two other guys in the ring already wrestling, you know, so we have no idea what happened. I assume they just tagged back out before doing anything. But the idea being, you take a guy like Sheamus. All right, let's talk about Sheamus for a moment.
Okay.
I love Sheamus.
Yeah.
I always have. Since the moment I saw him, like 12 years ago or whatever it was when he came out of Florida, I was just like, this guy looks cool. And then it turns out he can work his ass off. So even though he had been wrestling for a while at that time, you could see that even though, he's relatively green, he still had the literally green too, because he had the whole Celtic gimmick. But yeah, just seeing him get put in a main event spot so quickly, not that he wasn't able to pull it off, but as a heel and with all that, quick push, the people didn't really get a chance to appreciate Sheamus as much as they could have, because they kind of forced him on us pretty quickly, beating John Cena in that tables match for the championship. And it's like, bro, you're already the WWE champion. Where do you have to go from here?
Right.
And they made a point on commentary to talk about all he's accomplished, and the only thing he hasn't accomplished is winning the Intercontinental title. But when you've done so much so early, then you end up stuck in a tag team with Cesaro for a number of years, or like they don't know what to do with you anymore. So even a fan of me, of Sheamus as I am disinterested in Sheamus in the past 5-7 years or whatever it's been, not because of anything he's done, but because of what they continue to do with him, like dressing him up like a dock worker that's trying to get a day wage of the fucking Depression era New York or whatever. That kind of shit does nothing for me. But none of his creative has done anything for me. Not the stuff with Jeff Hardy and the alcoholism. Nothing they've done with him has been memorable or interesting to me, or something that I would recommend. Hey, you got to check this guy out. But I know he's always got it. He's still the guy.
Right.
He just doesn't have anything interesting to do. So with that being said, my point of going on that long Sheamus rant is, in this match, when you can imagine that people are a lot less fans of Sheamus than me, and a lot less invested in Sheamus than me, and a lot more bored of Sheamus than me, when you hear how they get invested when you just see him face off with Walter, they're like, he's the hero in their eyes. They're like, we want to see Sheamus get this guy. And the way that they were able to turn the people back to appreciating this guy, because now, even though they may not have been totally like their favorite wrestler all these years, but he's got the equity now.
Right.
Like whether they realize it or not, it'll be one of those moments, the reflective moments, like, huh, Sheamus really is awesome and always has been. I just never paid attention.
Right.
But now you get to appreciate it because he's been there, he's busted his ass for you guys all this time, and now you see that moment, those face-off moments where you're just like, the crowd really comes up for it more than just a random SmackDown usually does. So that's just a testament to the presentation of this. Guys, like, you've seen a big match. We had a big match. It felt like a big match at the time, and it was. They delivered on it. Now they're following up on it. This could just be looked at as a rehash. Like, oh, of course, they're just doing a rematch from Clash at the Castle because this is lazy booking from the WWE, and what else are they going to do? Think? But instead, it's more anticipated. Like, get these guys back fighting again.
Right.
And they tease us with it by getting the other 4 guys involved and keeping the main 2 guys out of it. And the crowd pops big when they finally tussle. You know what I mean? Like, this whole manipulation of the crowds of people, that's the art of the business that we just haven't been getting. We're sitting here talking about, like, ratings points and shit like that. Fucking, this is what the whole business is. Getting people invested that are normally on their phones or sitting on their hands or going to get a popcorn or going to the bathroom or couldn't give a shit less what Sheamus was going to do on a Friday night. Instead, these people were fucking up for it. And that's, quite frankly, amazing to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you looked at it from that aspect of it, but to me, I'm just like, wow, you got people into Sheamus.
Yeah. And
that's all it takes.
And I think Elizabeth says it best. Sheamus feels important again. And that's where I appreciate, like, I've always appreciated Sheamus because, one, he looks unique and different. I mean, the dude is just like, F getting tan. I'm going to be as white as possible. I'm going to have bright orange hair, and I'm going to be me. And he's done lots of different stuff, and I'm sure that's all his choice for his hairstyles or whatever. But I've always appreciated him, again, like you said, because he was good in the ring and he knew how to work. And it's just sad, like you said, he had the one where it was like him and Rusev and that whole faction.
Yeah,
and it was
the League of Nations.
League of Nations, like, okay, yeah,
you take 4 guys that are great, put them together, and somehow everybody's stock falls.
Right, yeah. I mean, you just do these things, and it's just like, guys, what are y'all doing with this man? He's good. But like you said, we just dumped so much on him in the beginning. Yeah. How do you maintain that? How do you do that? But this, I feel like with Sheamus and Walter, you're almost going, Walter, even though they're probably closer to age than they are, but Walter's the new thing on the town, and Sheamus is the old hat, and this is a match we would want to see. We've wanted to see this match for a long time. We got it. It was amazing, and it was one of those fight forever type things that we don't mind seeing it again because holy shit, Sheamus can go, and Walter is really amazing too. So let's watch these two do it again. I don't mind it because they've done a great job, like you said, manipulating the crowds and showing us something unique and different that the WWE has never really performed. And I mean, whereas before, when you asked me about Sheamus, okay, he was good, but the more interesting thing that he did was his YouTube channel where he'd go work out with people and go to different people and all the different workouts that they would do. That was the most interesting thing. I was like, how can they not take this guy who's doing this YouTube channel that's super entertaining and not doing this on TV? Like, that was the frustrating part because you could see Sheamus and the reactions he would get on his YouTube channel and how he would behave and interact with people. And it's like, where's this when it comes to TV though? And that's where you see that, boy, they really let him down. They
just did everything already. That's why. So, but that's the thing. Like, I understand that there's a balance because every performer has a shelf life, and you don't know what that is because it could be ended in an instant with an injury, or they could just go on to have a long career and whatever, and you don't know what you're going to get out of a person. So there's always that pressure, like, we got to strike while the iron's hot or whatever. Well, we didn't even get a chance to, get the iron hot. We just started striking Sheamus immediately. As soon as they push him to the top, push him. Triple H is your friend. Push. And then, of course, Triple H goes over on him at WrestleMania. But never mind that. Like,
Right.
we're still going to try to. You can beat me on the follow up paper. You can beat me at Backlash. That's fine. But all that shit. Like, there's been so many wrong things that they've done with Sheamus, and he still got over to a degree, but it could have been so much better.
Yeah.
And I'm happy if he's feeling fulfilled at this point. But that's the thing. Like, the brutality of that match. Only guys like Walter and Sheamus do that match.
Mm-hmm.
Sheamus hasn't had a Walter because most guys probably come in and look at their name across the dry erase board from Sheamus and they're like, fuck. Yeah. Because they know they're going to get beat up. You know what I'm saying? So, like, some people like that physical type of, like, we got to get in there and throw. Like, a lot of European guys are like that because that's just how they came up. There's some American guys that's like that too. It just depends on what your style is or what your mindset is. Me personally, I do like those kind of, like, I would like to get a little bit stiff in certain places and matches and stuff. Not that I would punch somebody in the face or stuff like that, but if I'm chopping you in the chest or I'm giving you a forearm to the lower back or those things, you're going to feel those, and I'm probably going to make it sting a bit when I hit you. And I would expect you to do the same to me because I don't mind that. But a lot of people just like to work light and not get brutalized in a fake match, which is also understandable. So we never even had a chance to do this, and that's why I was so glad they did. And I know Ben was not, he was very upset because they took away the Sami Zayn business that he wanted to do. Like, he was really into the Sami Zayn, hometown, Montreal, win the Intercontinental Championship, tell stories that way. And I understand why he felt that way. But this was a thing like, well, we had to get to this. Right. And I don't think Ben fully, and I watched the thing along with Ben because he was on the Twitch thing and I was in the chat room at the time, so I got to see his reaction to it. I'm sure he can appreciate now, being as what has come out of this, that Sammy's going to get that same level of business regardless. He's in the main event spot. He's continuing to play the game, as Ben says, get the character, have all those interesting character interactions with the Usos and now a new Uso. You know, so like all that wouldn't have changed one fucking thing if he had a fake belt. But this violent, brutal match that reinvigorates, one career and catapults another career even further, that needed to happen more than Sami Zayn needs to be Intercontinental Champion. So that's where I understood immediately when they made this match. I was like, I see what they're going to do. They're trying to use this. They're trying to use Walter while they have him to get him somewhere and to elevate Sheamus with him. It's like Walter goes up and Sheamus is coming up too. Sure. People are so tired of Sheamus and now they're interested again. And it's great.
Yeah, it really was. So, it was a great match, a 2-segment match. So it went on for a good while. You had a commercial break like we talked about where it looked like, they were going to come together. They come back and I think at one point Walter breaks up a pin or a hold by chopping someone in the back of the head or the neck area, like right in the back right there. I was like, oh shit, like that could not feel good, and then, but Imperium ends up, the Imperium bomb, onto Rich Holland. Which is, if you don't know, it's a European uppercut into a, power bomb. So that's how Imperium wins. Great match. I thought it was fun to, kick off the show. Especially after you've had your Clash in the Castle recap before that, then it's fresh on people's minds. You show them this match that got rave reviews, and you start the show with that. I think it was really good. So then we go into the Usos and Sammy. They come to the ring and they tell them that the bloodline is in their city, and they talk about, basically they're saying how basically this is where they're going to introduce Sikoa, Solo Sikoa, and that. And but as they're getting ready to do so, it's very interesting. Sammy goes for a hug, but Solo nods him. So we don't know where he feels about Sammy, because there's this dichotomy of, do we love Sammy, do we not Sammy, between Jimmy and Jay, and all that fun stuff. And then Drew comes out with a chair, and basically that makes us have a match between Solo and Drew because Drew is mad because he cost them the match. It's a promo. I don't know.
No, don't say that. This was fucking amazing. This whole thing was amazing because, again, Sami Zayn. This is why he doesn't need to be Intercontinental Champion and involved with that shit. This is what he does. Now he's got this thing that he can do with this family that he couldn't stick out like more of a sore thumb than this guy, than Sami here. But he's so good at everything. Everything Sami Zayn does is perfect. I'm glad that people are now saying what I was already saying about Sami Zayn 8 years ago. But I'm glad everybody's finally caught up to me again and appreciating him. Even Jim Cornette has to put Sami over every single week about being the most entertaining part of the show. And so now with this new with a new Uso to play with, now sidebar, John.
Yes.
Do you like Solo Sikoa's theme?
I thought I liked it
because I think it's one of those things that's like quietly very hot.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when I'm watching NXT, it doesn't come across because of the crowd and everything else. Like it seems like it's underplayed. But when you can actually hear the song, it sounds really cool.
I liked it.
It's a good theme for him.
I thought it was good. It came out really well. And I'll agree with you, Sammy. I think where Sammy, I enjoyed it was later in the show. Where a backstage segment with Sammy and them. I think that's where I like this. Sammy's entertaining, but this was not where I found it entertaining. This part, it was because I was expecting Drew to come out with to do something and get his revenge. It was, I think, later in the show where I was like, okay, this was entertaining. I like this. This segment was not near what we saw later entertainment-wise for me. That's why I said this was a promo because later on was more entertaining for me.
Well, it's even more entertaining later on. But so this is the creative that I found it very interesting that Sikoa showed up at Clash at the Castle. It was a good idea. But the reason I found it interesting is that, on NXT, the last time we see Solo Sikoa, he's on a trainer's table with a, cruciate ligament injury, being told how long he's going to have to sit out. And if you see him on this episode, he's still wearing his knee brace and everything.
Right.
But I was just wondering, like, is that like a real injury that they're trying to work around, but they want to involve him in this now? So they get out of him actually having matches? Or like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah. No, because the knee brace was pronounced because I don't remember that. Because from what I've seen before, I don't remember that. And I didn't remember him wrestling barefoot. So like I said, I'd only seen him a few times. I was intrigued by it. I knew he was the Uso's younger brother. They mentioned he's 8 years younger than Jimmy and Jay.
And a fan favorite in NXT at the time.
Yeah.
So quick gear shift on the call-up.
Right. And I found that interesting, too, that so there's some things that I recognized. I knew who he was. It was a little bit familiar, but it's like now that he's on something that I'm watching regularly, I was going, oh, he wrestles barefoot. Okay, that's unique. That's different than his brothers. They talked about he goes by Solo because really Jimmy and Jay were 8 years older, so he didn't really have that camaraderie. It was like, okay, so now that they're all family and bloodline, is that going to change his name kind of thing? Because it's those little things that I'm listening to with the commentary that I'm going, okay, that's cool, but so does it mean he changes his name because they're all family?
His name is no longer Solo Sikoa. His name is Company Uso now.
Right. That's what I was thinking. And are they going to do something different? Is he going to be an Uso? But I mean, I liked him in the ring. I thought he was interesting in that aspect before when I did watch. I was
he's a Samoan, so he's automatically excellent.
Yeah, well, it seems like it because I was like, all of a sudden he's in NXT out of nowhere. He's part of this new crew of 2.0, and I'm going, damn, like, why was he not in the ring earlier? He seemed polished.
I don't feel as though there's anything much more he could have learned down there.
Yeah.
So.
And so, which I found interesting because, like you said, he was a fan favorite. I think he wrestled for a couple belts, not won them, but despite that, was able to come up. But I know some people, like I had heard, read afterwards last night because I don't know, I'm bored, and they were like, "Why is this guy called up? He didn't do anything in NXT," and I'm going,
Mark.
yeah, I mean, like, does that? I mean, obviously he did something because
we only call up guys from NXT that win belts.
Yeah, which is stupid. I was like, obviously he's done something good because he's here now, and of course we'll talk about later him and Drew.
And he's the street champion of the islands. Never forget.
Yeah, exactly, street champ.
Street champion of the islands.
Of the island.
If there's if you don't watch the Next Level Wrestling review, then you won't understand this next part. But as Liz said, he's still gathering strength under his street lamps. Like, so please watch the Next Level Wrestling review every single week with myself and Big Ray Hernandez to get all the inside jokes.
Yes, that's a good one. I like it. But I'm looking forward to see where they go with this. Like you said, adding another person. This gives another layer of insulation for Roman so they can keep him on, so they can keep the belts on him a little bit longer. Because again, everybody was thinking Drew's getting the title at the Clash of the Castle. How are we going to get around this? Well, I didn't either. I was like, they're gonna do something. I said, James and I argued. James was like, "Oh, we got to have it," and I was like, "Well, we'll see."
Okay, homeboy.
Yeah,
of course we got to have it if it's
but
Drew.
He said, but I think he said more likely they'll keep it on Roman until WrestleMania is what he was thinking. And I was like, I mean, I can understand that. I said I could see them losing it beforehand, and like where he loses it before Rumble, and then he gets in the Rumble, and then he wrestles for the title at Mania by winning the Rumble. Let's have Roman win the Rumble for his fourth or fifth time. Why not?
And then, like I was saying in the chat, none of that. It should just be Roman Reigns as a champion for about 2, 3, 4 more years.
Okay.
And speaking of fake belts, like, can we stop making guys carry around all these straps? Can we just make the unified new belt?
Right.
Your belt designs are shitty. I know Triple H likes belts. I know he wants to get rid of these generic looking pieces of shit, and he's probably designing some right now, but just in the off chance that he hasn't got around to it yet, can you please get somebody on this? We need a unified belt. We need a unified tag belt. Make the belts, get your design real nice and everything, and stop making these guys look like clowns, like trying to hold all these championships and stuff like that on their shoulders and walk around and do every other pose and stuff that they're supposed to do. Like, it's just, we need to stop this foolishness.
Yes, I agree. That, like, honestly, it's you were going to unify the belt. There should have been a belt within the next couple of weeks because you knew you were doing it. You should have been on top of it and had unified belts.
It takes time though. I get it. Triple H's only been in charge for a few weeks. He could have set these things in motion, but he probably just didn't want to jump the gun. Liz says, "Who are they? FTR? Hey, at least FTR's belts are from different companies,
right? Yeah. New Japan,
this is stupid when you got the exact same identical championship belt, except it's just one's red strawberry and one's blue raspberry.
Right. So, all right. So, that was that segment. We're gonna move on to Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah versus Gigi Dolan and JC Gain, also known as Toxic Attraction. Which again, this is interesting since they weren't. They were in the tournament and then they were out of the tournament for no explained reason.
Well, alleged injury on Gigi.
Yeah.
Alleged.
Right, which she even posted on Twitter, "Hey, it looks like I'm fine." Yeah. She kind of put that one out there before SmackDown when they were not on the show, and then they had the 4-way match, the last chance match. So they have them back now on SmackDown again to do this match. I guess to run it because it didn't get run the first time since they were supposed to face them.
And the fans were clamoring for it, so we made it happen.
Sure, exactly. That's what we want. I think people wanted to see Gigi Dolan. Apparently, they're really enamored by her backside, is what I was hearing.
I guess. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So Toxic Attraction. All right. First of all, another NXT act
Right.
that kind of just doesn't make sense without Mandy.
Right.
Mandy Rose is the star of this show, and what enhances Mandy Rose as a talent, aside from all the other enhancements that she's had, is as with these two sidekicks now, it's kind of like when you have the chicks that like make your hot, like you're hot and you look hotter because you're friends, you know, like so she's got reptilian Britt Baker and fat ass white giraffe to accentuate the hotness of Mandy, right?
Right.
But having just the friends without Mandy, it doesn't make any sense. Like no one wants to see this. No one would even know who they are to care. They would remember Mandy because she was on Smackdown, but just seeing these two, it's like that'd be like having the Police without Sting. Like no one's interested. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So in any case, yes, this was not the best match. And then Toxic Attraction gets beat anyway. So why did it matter? They never had the match they were supposed to have, and they don't get any heat to say, see what would have happened if we were, and now we beat you, and then that gives us a title shot. Like we would have won the championships if we had been in that tournament. Instead, they just get beat, and it's like you're tying up a loose end that nobody thought was loose or needed tightening. Just
yeah. No, it's like who needed? Yeah. So this felt weird. Again, I don't understand the Raquel Rodriguez, Aaliyah, and them having the titles. Like I feel like that's a rib on all of us, especially because Aaliyah was supposed to be sent down to NXT and she's hung on, and it's. I think I was talking with somebody about this. It's like the whole purpose for her now is like everybody beats the shit out of her, and then Raquel comes in and gets the hot tag and cleans everybody out and wins the match with her Tejana bomb. And so, like, but how much of that is that gonna keep people interested in the match?
Not that much, but then again, it could be a thing where they're trying to build some equity. Now, let's keep in mind, I like to remind people every chance I get that Aaliyah's run in the WWE is longer than Stone Cold Steve Austin's active run. So let's just never forget that she's on that 8 damn years, bro. So yeah, there's nothing. If you got to do something with her at some point, if anything, you want to give her a women's tag team title as just like a consolation prize for not getting released all these years. Like, wow, here you still are. Here's a belt. Congratulations. Yeah. Like an employee of the month that you kept overlooking or something. And they really want to do something with Raquel, but I don't think they know what that is yet, because Triple H has a vision for her, and when she got brought up, that vision was nowhere near used. Just like all of Triple H's visions were cast aside, thrown in the garbage, urinated on, set on fire, then dumped with then they dumped ashes of other ideas that Triple H had on it to put out the fire. So that's what's been happening to previous stuff. So he's probably trying to tread water a little bit until he can figure out how to get Raquel where he wants back to be, that vicious heel. And I'm going to just go ahead and guess that the obvious move is you eventually, when Aaliyah costs her, she gets tired of being the one that carries, and then Aaliyah gets pinned one time and they lose the championships, and that's the excuse for Aaliyah to beat the shit out of her. Hopefully by that point, the audience will have some sympathy for Aaliyah and will be looking to take her side in a one-on-one between the two. That's just the lazy, rudimentary path that I think they would follow to get where they want to go with Raquel. And then they can hopefully salvage something with Aaliyah where she can be a marketable babyface going forward. Not saying that's what I would do or I would ever have been in this position in the first place, but me knowing what I know, I just see that I see that playing out that way. Do you see that as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that to me made sense. The only thing I can think of is that they're doing this so that they can build up for, like you said, when Aaliyah cost them a match, Raquel just beats the shit out of her and turns full heel on that, which would be interesting because I think part of our next match I think is going to address this is we had the Fatal 5-Way after this, and like 4 of the people were heels, and then you had Ronda Rousey, which I don't know how to take Ronda right now. Like I don't know if she's supposed to be heel, if she's supposed to be a babyface, like because like when you had the post match interview her with her and Shayna, she's like, you know what's best is revenge, and like how she's gonna beat the shit out of Liv Morgan, like which came across heelish, but in the match she's a babyface, and she's like getting the crowd to cheer her and things like that. And so I don't know how to take her, but then you had 4 other women who were heels in Sonya Deville, Xia Li, Lacey Evans, and Natalya. You know, and I'm going, okay, so I don't, and then of course it was right after this tag match, so it's just like, okay, you know, I guess they're trying to fill time in the middle of the show here because I didn't expect this to go that long, and surprisingly, it didn't. You know, I mean, Natalya was out within the first less than a minute. I think it was 45 seconds. You know, she took a woman's right from Lacey Evans, and then, you know, Rousey throws Sonya outside, and then she armbar Natalya, and Natalya taps out. Boom, done. You know, I don't know. I mean, other than make Ronda look like a complete badass, and you know she's facing Liv again at Extreme Rules, I don't know what else this did other than I guess set all that up.
Yeah, isn't that? Oh, that's not enough. I think you just talked yourself into your own point.
I know. I think I did too. But like,
as I say this out loud, I totally get what they were doing.
I realize that now. Like as I was saying that, I was going, okay, that's the whole point. And you know, but
it's nice to be able to work things out with, you know.
It is
through talking.
Through talking,
it's a good therapeutic.
But I mean, was this the best way to go about it? I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows what the best way is? Because again, we have to undo months and months and months of terrible booking. Mm-hmm. So the key priority here is, all right, so ostensibly this is about being a number 1 contender, right? Because we got a pay-per-view coming up. All right, well, we got that business figured out. The more important thing than any of that right now, how do we rehabilitate a star like Ronda Rousey that somehow they fucked up so bad that a lot of people probably think it's beyond repair? They're already writing her off, right? So that's the number 1 priority. How do we get Ronda back to where we need her, what she's supposed to be? Triple H just has, and I don't want to give him all the credit because I just don't know exactly what goes on backstage day to day. But if I know one guy does understand, it is Triple H. So he's doing a good job at conveying that to other people as well, subordinates perhaps. But he gets what characters are supposed to be. And I also get the sense that if he doesn't quite get it, he'll probably ask them. Like, all right, so this is what I think, but what do you think? You know, what do you see in this? So, and a good example of that is Kevin Owens, right? Not only are we seeing a resurgence of Kevin Owens being used more correctly. I mean, he's not all the way there yet, but on Raw, but he's more correctly used than he had been. And it reminds me of a story of Kevin Owens talking about when he first made his NXT debut, right? Because he wore the singlet, you know, back in Ring of Honor and stuff, right?
Right.
And he was like, he had his singlet, but he was also thinking of this new look or whatever, like the kind of look he has now with the sleeveless shirt and the boxing shorts or basketball shorts, depending on his mood. But yeah, so he had that look in mind, but he had a singlet too, which I think he still wears under his gear anyway. But he's saying like to Triple H, like, I've got my singlet. I don't know. Like, what do you think? And Triple H was saying, do whatever you feel comfortable in. Which sounds like, if you say it a certain way, that sounds like he could be brushing him off.
Right.
But I feel like he wanted to make sure that Kevin Owens was like, could fully concentrate on, to not be in his own head about what he looks like out there.
Right.
What's the best to get your character across? So I think he understands what characters are supposed to be. Ronda Rousey as a babyface. How do you make Ronda Rousey a babyface? I'll ask you, John. How do you do it? How do you make Ronda Rousey a babyface?
I mean, something like this.
This is a trick question, by the way. Like, there is a
Right.
right answer, and I'm just wondering if you're going to get it.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can because of what she's done. Like she herself has like come out and shit on the WWE in person and everything. So I don't think you can do that. But
No one remembers that. That
oh,
was that was like years ago.
apparently. But I would say you'd have to make Liv heel, which they kind of look like made her look like it up there in that booth, and overcoming adversity, and I guess that's what they were trying to do tonight, but it didn't look that way.
Didn't look that way, right? Okay.
Because she just whipped everybody's ass, so she's the badass. So I guess that's the route they're going. Is like Ronda Rousey's the badass, so we're gonna let her be a badass. But how that makes her a babyface, I don't know.
You did it again, John. You talked yourself right into the answer.
Did I?
How do you make a babyface Ronda Rousey? Let her be a heel. That's how you do it. You don't have her come out and smile and wave and all this other stuff. You let her be a bitch. The biggest bitch that Adam, whatever his name is,
Pierce.
Adam Pierce. There's too many Adams in this business too. We need to get rid of a few Adams. That Adam Pierce has ever seen, right? Like that's how you get Ronda over. If you're a fan of Ronda Rousey, as I am, you know certain few things about her. You know that at heart she's a sweetheart, but
Right.
in her public personality, like she's got the capacity to be a sarcastic. Like she's very sharp and cutting with some of her comments and stuff like that. That's also part of her personality, even though she is a nice person, just like many people, dude. I think I'm a nice person. I can also cut people down and have.
Yeah.
That's one thing is not mutually exclusive to the other. So part of what makes her enjoyable is seeing her be that rude type person that doesn't care with the comments and stuff, that makes those remarks, those cutting remarks and everything. It's not going to be smiling and whatever. Now, they do it in a corny way where she's constantly getting arrested. Like, Ronda
Right.
Rousey's been arrested more times than Stone Cold Steve Austin at this point. It's
Yeah.
kind of lame, but they're trying. I see what they're trying to do, right? Even as much praise as we can give the new regime for how they've started to rehabilitate things, they
Sure.
still do fall into some comfortable, lazy tropes and stuff like that.
Sure.
But that's better than just doing the same old bullshit that's hurting people actively.
Right.
It's better to be boring than it is to be bad. And it's I mean, we can work up from boring, right?
Right.
So to get Ronda back to where she needs to be, she has to be a little bit of a heel, and people will like that. They want to boo something that they don't feel is authentic, really. And they want to cheer something that is entertaining to them. And heel Ronda is entertaining. Her promos are more entertaining. Her matches are more entertaining. And by virtue of her being a heel, she becomes a babyface. She's the hero, right? She's not really doing the despicable actions. You know what I mean? Like, that's ultimately what makes the difference between a babyface and a heel is ultimately it's honor, right?
Yes.
In terms of like,
Okay.
am
Yeah.
I following the rules of the game that I'm playing? So that's why it's an easy story to tell. If you don't know who's the face and who's the heel going in a match, you can find out. Like, you can tell that story even if the people have never seen you before. So for Ronda, she's not doing anything like against the rules, but they're making like in the matches or causing harm to other people that don't deserve it or whatever. She's just doing her thing and her problems with management. That's kind of how Steve Austin got over.
Yeah.
Right? Steve Austin, until the WrestleMania 17 thing, he did everything by himself. He didn't group up, like gang up on people with other people. He wasn't friends with all the heels. He didn't do all the old heel bullshit or whatever. He became a babyface by being a guy that they could somewhat respect, right?
Right.
Ronda Rousey, same principle. Becky Lynch, same principle when she was the man. She just told you in an arrogant way that she's betting on herself, and you kind of get behind that because she's not like pulling people's tights or like, choking them or poking them in the eyes and shit like that, right? So the best way to make Ronda a babyface is to bring back the attitude, and that's what they're doing.
Okay. I mean, I guess apparently um I guess I talked like I guess I was in that ballpark, but I didn't see it like you see it in that aspect of because for
Like
me
I said, John, since Royal Rumble,
yeah
1995, dialed in.
yeah I know
Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
I get
it.
I get what they're doing. I get what they're trying to do. I get what they should be doing. That's the kind of thing that it's pointless to keep up with all this stuff except for moments like this when I can come on the show, explain the things that other people are missing.
Yeah.
That's where my education has come in handy.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I can appreciate that because it was like I guess I could like I couldn't articulate. I could see it, but I couldn't articulate it, and it confused me until having you kind of show me. No, you're right. Her being that badass, her being real, fighting with management, all those things. Okay, that it doesn't necessarily make her a heel. It just means she's being who she is. And
yeah, and to that point, not to stay on this forever, but I think it's important. Because this is documented history. It will always live on Channel Attitude. So anybody can go back and listen to that time I was right about stuff. So you remember when they turned, like you mentioned when she publicly talked badly about the WWE, right? Mm-hmm. Which that was a work. And the reason it was a work is because they wanted to turn Ronda heel. But that's not how you make Ronda a heel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like no one believes that. It's ridiculous. So that failed toward the end of her run there before she went off to have a family and stuff like that. But she didn't mean any of that stuff she said. She was being advised to say that. Like, and I have to guess, I would say it was probably Paul Heyman because he likes to do that kind of stuff where he like blurs the line a lot. But sometimes even Paul, as great as he is, doesn't get the bigger picture where you can't have Ronda say something like, if this shit were real, I would kill all these girls and then go out and lose a fake match. Because now you just like, so what are you trying to say? Like, why didn't you kill him? You said you could kill him. Why didn't you kill him? You didn't kill him. You got beat. So now you look like a fraud. They don't, the Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair don't look like frauds. You look like a fraud because you said you could kill him. Right? That's what he didn't get. But he wanted to get people talking. And sometimes there is such a thing as bad publicity. Because I know Ronda doesn't feel that way. She doesn't. She respects the wrestling business. She's not, it was just bad advice. But I saw what they meant to do. And now it's being like she's being more directed in the way that gets her over with the people. And that's good. And Liv, well, I don't know about her. She's just... hey, God bless her.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting because I mean, at this point, with the way it's situated, Ronda's got to win the title from Liv at this point, right? I mean, that's the only thing that can happen in Extreme Rules, right?
Yep. I would say so. We could tell Liv the experiment's over. You had your run. Got a couple quality wins. Good for you. If that kind of stuff matters. I'm much more interested in the Shayna thing because again, there's a situation of where Shayna's been presented as a heel, even though she hasn't been a blatant rule breaker either. She just seems sadistic and she's not traditionally attractive, so automatically she's a heel, right? But regardless of what Ronda's status is with the crowd, they're friends in real life, and I'm kind of tired of the WWE not acknowledging things that exist, and we're starting to see that. Like we're starting to see the cross of like, okay, these people are interacting now. So like the first thing I think of when I see Shayna Baszler come into the roster with Ronda up there is like, oh shit, we got a tag team at least. And then they never do anything with it. It seems like, it's Triple H's turn with the keys, and then all of a sudden, like in a couple of weeks, we got Shayna Baszler in a position of prominence and now interacting with her friend Ronda.
Which we saw right after this, and like they kind of said some inside things like they say to each other. That's their greeting for each other, and then she talks. That's when Ronda talks about getting revenge on Liz, and that's her, the best thing, about it. And, that made a lot of sense, in that aspect, because again, I like that, interaction. That's where I think, to me, again, it's Ronda, like, the way I viewed it, I viewed that as Ronda, like, building her friend up. Like, hey, what's even better? Getting revenge, doing that, getting back at him. And so does that mean, even like when Ronda wins the belt, Shayna comes in and beats the shit out of Liv, afterward? I don't know. I'm interested in this dynamic too. Like you say, of these two who are friends, where is that going to go from here? And see where it goes. And they should have been together, I think, before now.
We should have had, dude. We should have already had a horsewomen versus horsewomen at Survivor Series like 2 years ago.
But they never did it.
No, and they released Jessamine and Marina, and again, that probably wouldn't have happened if things had been under different management back then. But they just didn't see the money in that. And I think I even had an argument with Colin about it. Not that he was pushing back really hard, but just saying it's like, because his point was, well, are Jessamine and Marina skilled enough or over enough to the point that could be a marquee match? And I said, motherfucker, you bring people into the company to get them over.
Yeah.
That's your whole job as a wrestling company. You have to sell the product. If you don't sell the product, it's your fault. If you didn't think that it's not like, I'm not saying you take them in off the street and put them in a pay-per-view main event, but you had them in developmental for a good period of time. And
exactly.
What did you do with that? Not much. Only Shayna came out of that. So
yeah.
And you still never acknowledge it. So, but yeah, they could have had a passable 8-person tag team match at some point.
Yeah. Exactly.
But,
and I mean, you have them for a reason. They're there for a reason. And then you don't use them, but yet there's money right there by saying, well, we're the Four Horsemen. No, fuck you. We're the real Four Horsemen. Fine, let's see who's the Four Horsemen in the ring.
Yeah.
And I mean, even then, it's an 8-man tag match. You mean to tell me Becky, Charlotte, Bailey, and Sasha couldn't work with, the other two who weren't quite as skilled as Shayna and Ronda?
I wouldn't tell you that. They definitely could. So, you're right, 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but that's Mark thinking again. That's like you think of like, well, what did have they done enough in NXT? Has Solo Sikoa done enough in NXT to get called up? Shut the hell up.
Yeah, exactly. So then after that, we have Maximum Male Models and Los Lotharios versus the Street Profits and Hit Row.
Now this was a time filler.
This was. I was going, oh my god! And first of all, Maximum Male Models, they are not doing any favors for Mansoor and Mace. I can't call them by their whatever. Those outfits, man. At one point, I think Mansoor was up, and thank God he had underwear on, because those shorts, you could see everything when they were doing like that last move on him. I was like, holy shit! Like, my God, that was no. And then oh God, it was. I was just. I'm kind of done with the Maximum Male Models thing already.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Already.
No, I'm done. I have been done for a while. I keep saying Eli Drake needs to come back as Eli Drake and just stop this madness. This is not anything at all. Just let them go be their thing, and stop it. But. I mean, if this feels like they've committed to a point to these things, so they're going to play it out to an extent. But I mean, where does it go from here? I feel like, okay, so last week Male Models and Lotharios, they spray painted Street Profits bus, thinking it was Hit Rows, so that's why this match happened. Because we couldn't take care of it last week. No, we had to do it in the ring, but y'all are street, right? So we're street, so we're gonna do it in the ring. Yeah, again, logic and storytelling. But then you have this match, and it felt so clunky. Like, I don't know if it was, but it wasn't even just like across the ring. It was even the teams interacting with each other felt clunky, and so it. it, like you said, it just felt like a time waster at this point because
Mm-hmm.
nothing was outstanding. Nothing. It just felt forced. It felt like people were trying to figure things out and not really, a good fit for what was supposed to happen. That's how I saw it in the ring. And I was like, okay, are we done? Cool, we're done. The only thing I found that I would have any interest whatsoever was the two women who, kind of got into it, in the match.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I'm like, oh, well, now we can bolster our women's division a little bit and we can have two more people wrestling in that division. But I don't know the female from Maximum Male Models. I've never seen her before. I know she was in NXT for a little bit, supposedly. I don't know if she's any good. Like I said, I don't know anything about her. I've
Never
seen
had a
BFAB.
match that I saw.
Yeah. I've seen BFAB a little bit. She seemed all right, but like I said, again, I didn't see them in NXT. I just saw them when they made it up to SmackDown, and they weren't very, very long. But what about you, Fed? What did you think about this one? So,
Well, if you see down in this lower portion of the screen where it says Opinion Haver 2X, that's
right.
mostly meant to be 2 times, like because
Right.
I'm a 2-time Hammy Award winner. But
Yes,
it's
sir.
also very apropos because that's how I watch most of my wrestling these days. That's the fast forward speed that I hit. So it really is 2 times speed, Opinion Haver, for this one, and it couldn't be over fast enough.
Yeah.
I accidentally watched some of it in regular speed too, and then I was like, "Oh, what am I doing?"
No, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And this was a 2-break segment too. Like they,
Very
that was very weird too. Like it went through 2 segments with that, and then
It didn't seem like the crowd died on it like we are, but like just you look, you can't hit a home run every at bat,
right. But it is Seattle too, which they're known for. I mean, they have hot crowds for stuff up there. Honestly, you mean their soccer teams, or football teams, or baseball. Well, maybe not baseball, but they have hot crowds there, and that was made evident in this next segment. Where you had the Alpha Academy come out and talk about, oh, we had that tag team one, but stupid Braun Strowman, and then of course he made mention of the Supersonics. They couldn't keep a basketball team, and that set them off for a good 2 minutes where he kept trying to do that. Now I don't get to see a lot of Alpha Academy because they're on Raw, and I don't get to watch Raw because Monday nights I'm working, doing stuff with kids, so I don't get to.
Don't say it like that.
Well, yeah,
I think you should clarify what you're
I
doing.
I help run my program with teens to help them make good choices. How about that?
Right, and part of that is not watching Raw.
Part of that is not watching Raw. There we go. Yeah. So the whole shoosh thing, which by the way, I'm like, it's shush. Why are they saying shoosh? It's always been shush.
because he wants to pronounce it differently so he can have a catchphrase and they can trademark it.
Okay, apparently. I don't think like that. I'm going, why is he saying it wrong? It's driving me nuts the entire time he's saying that.
You've never heard somebody say shoosh before?
No, it's always been shush.
Well, yeah, it is shush, but somebody somewhere along the way decided they wanted to tweak it like as a parody of shush. It's like, I'm going to say shush because that's making fun of shush. And then this guy has dragged it out into this whole other catchphrase. Come on, Chad, back me up. You've heard people say shush, right? It's like saying, it's like a Ace Ventura type thing where he's parodying a word.
See, it's either been shush
Lehu Zeher.
well, and I get that, but I've always heard shush or shh, like that. Like I've never heard shoosh.
Shush is a shush parody.
Okay, I'll take it, but it drove me nuts. But then, of course, Braun Strowman comes out and beats them up, and because he's the monster. He's not the monster amongst men anymore. He's the monster of monsters now.
Oh.
And I just gotta say this: that EC3 died is one hell of a thing, because he looked impressive. I'm not gonna lie, he looked impressive, and I know he was hanging out with EC3, so I'm not saying one way or the other that EC3 is doing drugs or whatever. I know people are saying that, but
well, he is.
I'm sure he is.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
You cannot look like that. It's not a thing you can do.
Yeah.
I'm just letting people know that. And look, I know EC3. I'm not gonna say like we're friends and we talk to each other every day, but he's one of the people that I came up with. So like, you know, I mean, I consider him a friend. We've never been anything but cool. I'm not disrespecting him, but I'm just saying, come on.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't do that.
Yeah.
But he's always been in good shape. And he what's it called? Braun Strowman. Well, here's Elizabeth's comment, as you can see there. It basically says it all. Can Braun just leave again? Which is kind of my point. Yeah. Before, like, you know, slightly fatter Braun when he first came in with the Wyatt family and stuff, like he always to me just looked like a giant baby. Right. Like if you hit a baby with like a grown up Ray or whatever, and they just weren't quite proportioned, and you just had a big head and a little face, and just like, you know, he looked like a Dick Tracy villain or something. But you know, seeing him like in shape, he does look a little bit better. But I mean, has Braun Strowman ever really been interesting? Or is he a, and again, you got a giant guy, you got to do something with him, right? I'm not saying that. And I don't know the guy personally. I don't know anything about him. I'm not making any judgments on his character. I'm just talking about how they've presented him from day one makes me feel like this. And nothing that he's done outside in his own personal life has made me change my mind on it. So, you know, we see him, like come back on Monday, and he goes to do his thing where he does the locomotive around the ring. And the first thing he does when he goes for Chad Gable is eat shit.
Yes.
He falls down, eats shit. Boom. The people were like, but he got right back up and got back into it. So the people kind of were like, they gave him a pass on it. Yeah. But I was just kind of like, oh my God, this is what we're in for. Yeah. I don't see Braun. I can't take Braun Strowman any kind of seriously. But when you have a guy like that around, you can't just not do stuff with him. Right. Is he part of this culture of this generation that your son is like a part of, and maybe even a little bit older than him, but like where everybody just likes things ironically, and like they don't really like it, but it's funny to them how much it sucks, so they like that? And is Braun Strowman that? Is he just like, he's so stupid? Like when he came in and like they're doing these things where he's like flipping over semi trucks and all kinds of impossible shit, and like, are people just laughing at it? And because it's like, it's so stupid, they just have to laugh at it? Is that what it is? Like, is that the only reason he ever got over at all? Is because they're laughing at him because he's a rib? Right. Is that what it is? Because you can't tell me one serious thing he's ever done in wrestling that anybody could be like, wow, that was his moment. Like winning a tag team championship with a child. Again, not his fault, not blaming him. I'm not saying anything. Again, whoever this Adam, whatever is, I'm not saying anything about him personally. Not that I need to worry about him, but I'm just being fair. Like, I don't want this to be on record as me saying anything about the person, but it just all kind of, hey, Braun, tip over that ambulance. Like, haha, that's so funny. No one was like, oh, that's awesome how he did that, even though it was clearly fake and they had several camera angles and all this other stuff, right?
And you can see the hinges where, you know, so he could take the weight and whatever. Yeah.
I guess we'll just see. We'll just leave it in Triple H's hands. What can you do, buddy? What can you do?
I agree. Like, he was a gimmick. He was an act. Like, it's like, oh, we're going to use it. Like, even WWE acknowledged it on their YouTube channel, the top 10 feats of strength of Braun Strowman, of him pulling down a Jumbotron, him flipping over the 18-wheeler, him flipping over the ambulance. Like, it was all that, you know, that was the whole thing. People wanted to see the feats of strength, you know, it's because, in a way, because that's what he was before he came to WWE. He was one of those strong men, you know, doing those competitions of lifting the Atlas stones and shit. So it's like, well, we're just going to pour into that. You're going to tip over
Right.
heavy shit. And
But they didn't. They went too far.
yeah,
Like
way too
when
far.
Brock Lesnar took that bulldozer and flipped the ring up as like, psh, Braun Strowman could do that. Like
Yeah,
that's the first
right.
thing I thought of when he did that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now he'll get his chance,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. He'll flip a ring. Yeah, I mean, oh, but I mean that. I think that's the whole point. Is I feel like he's brought in to be that almost comic big guy relief. Where it's like we're gonna watch him pull stuff down, and we're gonna watch him throw somebody across the ring, and oh, that was funny. Look, he threw that guy across the ring. Oh wow, it's not that serious Andre like or Big Show, which I mean they kind of fucked up Big Show too. But Andre kind of you have a big guy in the ring and it's serious. You don't fuck around with Andre. He will beat the shit out of you, which you felt that. And this almost feels like Big Show in the later years where we're just kind of having fun with him and fucking around and we're gonna uh, have fun with this guy. That's kind of like how I feel he's going to be treated in that aspect because that's just I think who he is. Like when you see the stuff that he posts on social media and who he is, he's not that guy. I mean, I know that EC3 and they tried to do this control your narrative and tried to make him more of a monster. They called him Titan, and he was this thing. And I mean, they ran into a VIP show and they beat everybody up, and I was there for that. And I'm not gonna lie, he's a big ass dude. He is a big ass dude. When you see that dude live, he's massive, but it's still like one of those things where I would see him and I would kind of smile because it was like, okay, are you gonna flip something over? Like, are
Yeah.
that's in my head, and I don't know how this is going to be one of those things where how Triple H rehabs this image. I don't know, or are they just going to lean into he's the fun guy? Now, you say my kid doesn't like things ironically because
I just said the generation like that age.
But I was going to say my kid, he likes things because he likes things because I taught him better than to be like things ironically.
I would hope so.
Yes, and
we all do it at certain points.
Yeah, we do.
Like we do, but it should not be your entire basis of entertainment.
Right.
And I think that's one of the problems with wrestling fans nowadays is that there's a generation that's only seen wrestling be stupid and laughable. They don't know what heat is. Mm-hmm. They'll never know. Like to them, heat is saying a mean thing. Right. Heat is not saying that Seattle couldn't keep the Supersonics.
Right.
Heat is when you beat this is what they could have done. This would have been shocking. Braun Strowman comes into Raw to interrupt eight men having a 4-way tag team match.
That's where I thought he was coming.
And these are all your own, you're for the number one contenders. So that means that these are the 4 best tag teams you got, the 4 of top athletes in your company, and I don't care who you are. If 8 men can't beat you up, then something's wrong.
Right.
So how crazy would it have been if Braun Strowman makes his big return, gets the big pop, and eventually the 8 guys get over on him and he fucking gets carried out.
Right.
I know everybody would think immediately like, oh my God, that's, you made Braun Strowman look weak. It's like, well, I'd rather one guy look weak than 8.
Right.
And now that adds intrigue. Like, what's Braun Strowman going to do next week after he just got carried out on his big debut?
Right.
You know what I mean? And now these other 8 guys are interesting. It's just like something like that. I'm not saying it's the greatest idea because I just made it up 5 seconds ago. But what I am saying is, of course, you're just going to do the same old shit. Braun Strowman comes in. You've got a championship contender match going on. And of course, you're going to hit another guy's music, an unannounced guy that, as of what we knew earlier today, did not work here. But he's got his music and his video package and everything ready to go to interrupt a match. Who authorized this? Shit like that. That kind of shit's got to go. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you can do with Braun Strowman, man. I'm glad I don't have to think of it. Well, I'm sad I have to watch it.
Canada Spaceman has a great idea. Maybe you can do this with him. I don't know.
Hey, look, they're from your country, Canada Spaceman.
Yeah.
He said, "Hey, Braun, Nickelback released a new album. Go beat them up." Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Who
for
knows?
it.
Go
But
for it.
You're the Canadian, and so are they.
Right. So then we end the night with Drew McIntyre versus Solo Sikoa with the Usos and Sami Zayn because earlier the night we had a segment with them backstage where and I don't remember at what point we had that where they were all backstage together and Sammy was being very Sammy and Solo's like, I'm gonna do
Well,
this alone.
the key thing here is when Drew McIntyre eventually came out,
Oh yeah,
he was going to hit Sikoa with that chair, and Sammy pushed him out of the way and took the chair shot,
that's right.
as he's been doing lately for the Bloodline, taking shots for them, and so that changed the tone of it from where now Solo, who wasn't sure about Sammy, now is down with Sammy. So now Jimmy and Solo are on Team Sammy, and Jay's the one who is still not having it at all. So he's saying like, you know, what was it? What was it they were saying backstage? It was something like he's saying I gotta do this on your own or whatever he said. But he's like I gotta do this on my own, and then Sammy's like, yeah, you do it on your own, and then Solo's like, but if I did want somebody to have my back, it'd be you.
Yeah.
And he's like, and Sammy's got that proud look on his face, and then Jay's like, man, forget this, we all going out there.
That was that moment, like
brilliant.
I loved it. That was where I feel this is the segment I feel Sammy was really, really on his game at this point and way entertaining because he was talking about, and Solo's kind of on board. Like at first, even still, he was kind of playing it where he wasn't. You were thinking he's not quite sure about Sammy, but you see him like, okay, yeah, I'm on board with Sammy, and you just see Jay, like his facials, like he's just getting more and more pissed that Sammy's just getting all this love, and he's just like, man, and I mean, like being straight up defiant almost, in some of these things, and so just the whole time Sammy's like, what, man, what are you doing, like. Like because it's like Sammy doesn't recognize he sticks out like such a sore thumb that oh man, I'm in here, we're good, we're tight, and this cemented all that. It made it feel really good, and then it set up them coming out with Solo for the match, which again it was I felt like Solo did a really good job with Drew. Being in this match, this is his first match on Smackdown, in front of a live audience on TV on Fox, and then you have this match with Drew McIntyre, and I felt like everything kind of flowed well. They seemed to work well together, and then it ended very oddly, not how you would expect. Which you have Sammy, you have the Usos out there, everybody's out there with Solo, and it ends with Karrion Kross jumping in the ring and putting on the cross jacket.
Which, very corny. The footage goes to black and white.
Right.
Like, what? Come on.
Yeah, and then as if you're Drew McIntyre, and then as the show's going to start, it's blinking like as if you're losing consciousness with Drew, and then off you go. We're out. But you can still hear Michael Cole. You know what I mean? Like, wait, if you're unconscious, you don't hear Michael Cole as you black out, but this was weird. I feel like I was wondering if the time was off because he had him in there for a very long time before they started doing the whole fade to black kind of thing. Do you think that was a timing issue? Because like he's got the cross jacket on, Drew tries to fight out of it, and then they get back down. Like I didn't like that because it made it seem like Karrion Kross didn't know how to put on his own move because Drew was not submitting. He was not going down. I mean, I don't know. I've personally put people in chokeholds before, and they didn't last that long. They went out pretty quick. So I don't know. It felt weird. Like it didn't feel right. I felt like
well, have you seen the traps on Drew McIntyre? Like,
well, you
got a huge upper neck.
I guess.
Well, one of the drawbacks of doing the whole 2X thing is that I don't get a sense for timing as well because everything's sped up a little bit. So like my perception of the scene was warped. I saw everything that happened, but I didn't get a good real time feel to it. So I can't really answer that question fairly, but I will just say that I do think that it's corny that the footage goes to black and white. That's the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
And it takes away from his entrance. Because
Right.
it's like, if you do it on the entrance, it's like, okay, this is purposeful. We're doing this because it's this guy coming out. And it starts in black and white and goes to color when they hit the fall and pray line, which I think it's also corny that Scarlett mouths the words. If she's gonna go out there, she should scream it just like the music does. But
Right.
But to the live audience, seeing somebody just moving their mouth in time to the entrance music is just that's it's bad. It just looks bad. So either scream it or don't do anything. But other than that, this is good because now this drags Drew away from the bloodline and stuff. Like now he's got to handle this business. Otherwise, we're going to be asking ourselves like, well, why isn't he going after Roman Reigns again? Why isn't he going after the bloodline? Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing that? This peels him off of that.
Right.
Lets them get to their next business, which whatever that'll be. But until Roman wants to show up, you've always got fun stuff with Sammy and now 3 Usos.
Right. Right. I haven't read. I haven't seen. Like I said, I only kind of pay attention to SmackDown. Where's Paul Heyman? Like, is he not with the company anymore, or is he just on an extended vacation?
I don't know. I don't know where he's at. We haven't seen him since SummerSlam, so
Right.
he's probably doing stuff. I'm sure he's on the phone with people.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm not missed anything because I haven't heard anything. And it's been noticeable that he hasn't been there as far as a character. So I'm just making sure I didn't miss a news story or something that's saying he's.
I don't. Maybe you did. I don't really read the sheets too much, so
I don't either.
I would have missed it. And but this does open up more for Sammy.
Yes.
Because you don't need Sammy and Paul. It's always great to have them both, but I think it's just gives Sammy just a little bit more spot.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
and I mean I know you're more familiar with Solo Sikoa. So how do you feel he did in this match with Drew? I thought he was fine. I didn't think there was anything egregious. But you watch him more than I do.
I stared at this match, even though it was on 2x speed. I watched the whole thing, and until you were talking about it, I didn't even remember that this match took place. Like, I forgot everything that happened in it. So I don't know. But I'm not worried about him. I'm sure it was fine. He's not the kind of guy that, like, I don't know what it is about the Samoans, but there's no bad Samoans. You've heard Chris Jericho say it. You've heard many people say it. Like, they just get it. They get wrestling. At least the ones that get in wrestling do.
Right.
So he'll be fine. He'll be good. This match wasn't really so much of a match as it is just the next part of the angle that they're going with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Which, I mean, again, like you said, I like that they're pulling Drew off with the carrying cross thing. And that builds something unique so that we can not have to have Roman. But do you think we're at a point now where Roman doesn't have to be on Extreme Rules?
Well, he already wasn't on one of the smaller shows, wasn't he? I forget which one it was.
Well, he wasn't going to be on one. He wasn't going to be on, but they ended up bringing him in a 6-man tag. With the Usos, because it was going to be the Usos and the Street Profits, but then they brought, I think it was like the Street Profits and Drew versus him and the Usos for a 6-man, because that was going to be your main event for the tag titles, and then they didn't do it and they went that route.
Yeah, I think it's okay if he passes up Extreme Rules. All he has to do is just be a presence, even if you're not physically there. If you remind people that Roman Reigns exists every week, everything will be fine. It could be as simple as one time where he comes out and says, somebody's like, what are you gonna, what's gonna happen to Extreme Rules, or like, you gonna have a match at Extreme Rules? Is you defending your title at Extreme Rules, or whatever? And he can say like, I make my own rules. And then that's all he's got to say about it. And So it's like that gets him out of being involved in anything like this. So
True.
yeah, I don't think we need him there, but we'll see.
Okay, if you don't need him there, what's your main event?
That I don't know, but it could be. What's Raw got going on? What they got over there? The Seth and Riddle stuff is getting kind of tired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's again. This is where I go back to. This is kind of one of the bad things about having unified titles, and Roman being the champ for as long as he has been. Is there's nothing major that's underneath that could, like, be a main event. There's a lot of really
But
good.
Extreme Rules isn't major itself.
True.
It's like, I don't know, man. Look, this stuff's all streaming on Peacock, right? I think they're probably like, if you got a pay-per-view in a town, they're probably gonna. It's in Philadelphia, is it?
I didn't even bother.
Philadelphia is gonna show up if you,
Yeah.
if you put a pay-per-view in Philadelphia, they're gonna go to it. This is what they're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're gonna do, but I mean,
Liz brings up a good one that I found intriguing. Dexter and Miz.
well, she just loves Dexter Loomis, but I think even she'll agree that's not main event worthy.
It's not main event, but it's a good story. I mean, it could be on there. I like it. I like Dexter Loomis. I think it's fun watching him just pop up and with that face.
Yeah,
but it's good. So I mean, I would say, I feel like this is the first SmackDown post Clash. We said after SummerSlam, okay, we're going to see where they're going. Now we're saying after Clash, yard work clipping still. After Clash, okay, now I think really Paul has the book, so let's see where he goes. I don't think that's fair. I think we have to give it time to let things grow and see where we go. We can't start judging SmackDown the week after you've had a major pay-per-view. You're setting things up, you're building things. You have to let it breathe.
You're also tearing down old shit.
Right.
You can't, but you're not, like, he's not just completely pulling the plug on stuff.
Right.
It's like he's trying to work it back out.
Right.
Like you were saying with the Pete Dunne thing. Like, you're not just doing a full 180 on stuff. You have to, like, play the stuff out, and then you can start to change it.
Right.
And another thing that I've noticed that's a little different is just getting more faces on the show, period. Right? Like, before Triple H took over, how many times did you see Xia Li on television?
Twice?
Never. Like, almost never. Just randomly. And then now it's like she's on every week, even if it's not that important.
Right.
But she's on more. And Lacey Evans came back. Where's she been at? After they fucked that up too. So, so that's a good thing, is that you're getting faces on there. You have the faces, and you need time to fill. So fill them up, even if you got to make a 5-way match, or you got to make a 4-way tag team match, or Los Lotharios. You know what I'm saying? Like, weren't really doing much. Now, just even though it's just kind of random crap, it's still, their faces are out there. So, it's good to see, different faces filling time, rather than, let's just do recaps all show, right, and see the same 5 people. You know what I mean? So I'm for that too. That's an important thing.
Yeah, which I think, if I remember reading and hearing a lot about Russo, that was his thing. He wanted to get as many people on the show and have storylines as possible. And whether that works a lot, I don't know. But I mean, you're seeing different things. You're not seeing the same people over and over again. And I think that's one of our biggest struggles a lot with SmackDown, is we saw 3 weeks in a row of the same matches or different things, when you had guys like Ricochet or other people sitting on the sidelines not doing anything. I don't know. But I did want to get, that's our show. But Vet, I wanted to get your opinion on this, because this popped up this week, mostly because she's my friend. So, and this was put on her Twitter. Lady Frost put out that she's still under contract with Impact, but they're not using her, because she's supposed to be paid per appearance on her contract. And so she's asked for a release. They've not given it. and she's not out for another 784 days, is what she said.
What?
So yeah. So it's one of those things where I have to wonder, like, how I understand she was new in the business, she's getting started, and so it's like, hey, Impact comes calling, I'm going to do that deal,
Yeah.
But at what point is that pretty shitty on Impact's part, or is that all on her for signing a deal like that?
It's never just as simple as either or, right?
Okay.
Like if you sign something like that, you have to be aware that these things can happen. It could be a little bit of buyer's remorse on Impact's part,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't be signing like, I mean, I don't know if you need to sign a contract. If you're working on per appearance, like, do you really need to sign a contract?
I don't know if
Because
it's
otherwise this can happen.
or maybe like it's a non-compete or something. Um,
Well,
because,
they're not competing with anybody.
well,
I
to be on TV or something like that.
yeah, I really don't know. I I I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't know enough of the particulars, and even if you could tell me some, I'm not really sure it's our place to discuss it like here. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So, but I would just use the caution of she's just got to figure out a way to be able to make a living, however that is. If she has
Right.
to keep making phone calls and talking to people and reasoning with them and bargaining and whatever she's got to do or whatever, then she's got to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she's got to convince Impact that since she's under contract, they got to use her.
Right. She does own the Lady Frost. She is trademarked. She does own that name, so that's pretty cool.
But they seem really high on her at one point,
Mhm.
And again, now I'm just talking from a completely impartial perspective.
Mhm.
Okay, so no one take offense to any of what I'm about to say, but they brought her in. They pushed her a little bit harder than maybe they should have, given the experience level, and like even if she was doing great, like I don't know what would be the reason to try to lock down somebody that was that unproven for multi years. Like I don't see why Impact would want to do that, and I don't see why. I could see why she would want to sign it, but I don't know what made them say, "Oh yeah, we got to bring her in for a 3-year deal." It's like it seems like they changed their mind about something.
Right.
Right? Like they must have saw something they didn't like, but she came in pushed pretty good. Even to the point where like when she comes out and like her little name on the lower third has like its own like snowflake effects, like a scene from Frozen or something. Like
Yeah.
she gets her very own special, frosty graphic. And I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
So they clearly at one moment in time were like, yes, Lady Frost is it.
Right.
And now what? It's just something happened. I don't know. So
Yeah, and I don't either. I mean, I know people have said a couple of things, and she's like, "No, that's not why. That's not why." But I mean, at the same time, too, it's very interesting when they were here for WrestleMania, like how very interestingly there was very little communication between her and management on what they were doing. Like we went, we did the show, and when she got there for the 7:30 WrestleMania show, she's getting ready for her match. She's like, I'm about 20 minutes from going on for my match. And they say, oh, hey, by the way, we need you to stay for the 1980s bit that we're doing at midnight. And she's like, oh, like was not prepared for that whatsoever. They gave her a gimmick like after she wrestled her match, and then she had to figure out that gimmick in about an hour and a half before she had to go out and was the first match for the night for the 80s gimmick. I mean that I don't know. Like I don't know if that's normally how things work, but
it does if you're at a certain level.
I guess because it was just kind of one of those things where they were like, we were not expecting to be there past midnight, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, yes, now we are.
Which that thing never saw the light of day, by the way. So whatever it
Apparently,
was so rotten that they fucking decided to never show it, and they billboarded it too. They were like, "Coming next week, we're gonna do it." And I told the people on the Impact Tech, "I promise you, I will watch this and review it, even though I hate you all." Uh, but it never actually happened, and I never got any word as to why. So
yeah. Yeah, and so she's not getting paid for being so Candace Spaceman. She does not get paid for being used. From right now, I know she can do independent bookings, but she can't do anything else. So that's kind of where she's at with that. Another interesting thing was the different people that would talk to her while she was at Impact, and like balancing who to listen to. Like, you know, and it was just very funny the different names she dropped of this person would tell me one thing, but then this person would tell me another. And so it's like, okay, I need to listen. And one person was not on site. They were watching tape and giving information back versus another person being there and telling them what to do, on top of everything else. So,
it's no wonder they're in the state they're in.
yeah, I don't know. I felt like, I know that it's personal, but she had an interesting gimmick. I felt like she was someone who could be unique and different and interesting. And, I feel like they've dropped the ball, and the fact that now that, she can't do anything other than, I don't want to say other than independent wrestling because, that makes it sound bad, but, she can't
Well,
go anywhere for a while,
well, at least she can do that.
you know?
And that's it's those road miles and that experience and stuff is going to make it so that whenever she does land another deal or when Impact decides they want to use her for something or whatever, she'll just be that much more seasoned and ready for all these things.
Yeah.
She does look great. She's got her gimmick. She's got her look. She just needs the seasoning. She just needs the time in the oven. And that only comes with doing. You can't get better at something by not doing it. So
Sure.
as long as she's not sitting at home wondering why the phone's not ringing, she should either be, trying to figure out if Impact can just let her go or if they'll bring her in. But what it sounds like to me is, just on the surface of it, what it sounds like is she's gotten politicked out of a spot. I don't know who. I don't have any inside information. But this reeks of politicking.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody didn't like that she had a little frosty graphic of her own when she just got there.
Yeah.
That's how the wrestling business is.
I don't know. It's weird. Which I've been kind of looking over the timeline, and I think that tweet might have gotten deleted because it's not anywhere where I remember it being. But who knows? Somebody might have said something and she took it off. But still, I hate that for it's a real life thing that people I know are going through something like that. It's just I don't know. I don't understand how you can do that for someone who was so over at the time.
Well, to tie it all back to what I started talking about in terms of myself and everything, it's like, this is why I'm sitting here today.
Sure.
I chose to leave, but I just didn't want to deal with this aspect of the business right now. Just things like this story that you're telling me now. This is just a prime example of shit that just, I have no patience for that. So I'm not going to argue with you whether I'm, whether I'm worth somebody's time,
sure,
or whether I know what I'm doing. So
yeah.
Anyway, but I sincerely hope she figures it out.
Yeah. I know that her and her husband were at WrestlePro this weekend, and I know she's got bookings and that she's been doing stuff. So there is that. She's got her new shirt out called Murder Gymnastics. It's actually a really cool shirt. Wrestling Buddy, I think she made waves because they talked about how Wardlow bought a kid at their show who couldn't afford a Wrestling Buddy, bought her Wrestling Buddy and gave it to her. So there's, she's still out there. She's doing her thing, and I'm proud of her for it. I just, when you know somebody in this business, you see something like that happen, it hurts a little bit, So I guess it's just for me. I've never been on that side of it, And so it's just interesting in that aspect, but also very weird how things operate. But I guess that's wrestling.
It is,
You know.
sadly.
So with that said, I think we've been at almost 2.5 hours talking, not at 2 times speed, at regular speed.
Regular
So
speed.
we're at regular speed. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say thank you, chat. Javi rolled up here right at the end of the chat. So what's up, Javi? He just woke up apparently. Elizabeth, Candace, Spaceman, Drone, everybody in the chat today. Y'all were awesome. Even Colin. Lab Rat. What's up, Lab Rat? Even Colin was in the chat. So
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do about Colin. But love you.
We ran him off.
Yeah, we did. We did. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to join the show, always join us in the chats here if you're watching on YouTube. But remember, once this comes down, it'll be gone forever, and you have to go over to Channel Attitude. Go watch Channel Attitude. Go subscribe to Channel Attitude. As James says, it only costs you 2 cups of coffee. I don't know how much it costs you because I've always heard Starbucks is expensive. So, I don't drink coffee. I drink waters and sparkling waters and regular. $4 a month from my understanding. So go and listen to great shows like the Impact Attack, like Next Level Wrestling Review, like, all the locker rooms that are on there, the Smack Attack, everything that's on there. You go listen and you're going to hear some great opinions and you're going to have some great ideas. You're going to hear from people like Ben Hameen and Stevie Richards and The Vet and Vince Russo. Why not? Go listen, and it's going to be worth your time. And then every now and then you might hear me. I don't know. I don't know if that's worth your time, but definitely
You're worth it too, John Henry.
Oh, thank you. Go listen to there, and if you want free content as well, you can always listen to the Hami Media Group, where we have different shows on the channel. The Academy will be making. We're working on some things. There might be an announcement coming, so be listening to your podcast about that. But there's all kinds of other great shows on the Hami Media Group channel. So go listen and find out what you like there, because that channel is people who are just passionate about their subjects and are a lot of fun to listen to on there. Vet, anything you would like to promote or plug? I know I kind of stole your thunder with some of your shows, but anything else you would like to promote or say before we log off?
Well, yeah, just at Opinion Haver on anything that you can at somebody at. It's probably me. If it's not, you'll be able to find out real quick. Because their opinions probably aren't worth much. So there's that, and that includes twitch.tv/opinionhaver, any of the social media platforms, the gaming platforms. Some people will be like, Vet, I wanted to add you on PlayStation, but I don't know your handle. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Really?
So take a wild effing guess. So that's it. If you were looking for me, that's where I can be found. Other than that, you'll see me next probably for the Impact Attack, which we may have a special guest on the Impact Attack this week.
Depends on what shows. Depends on what shows.
I think we will. Although, as of this current recording, I have not watched this episode yet, and I'm not looking forward to it. So I don't know what's on it, but.
Okay, so I went to watch Thursday on Twitch, and there was nothing there. So I don't know. I was like, what's going on? Because they broadcast live on Twitch too, if I remember correctly.
They did. I don't know if they still do though.
Okay.
They might have just moved over to YouTube or whatever.
Because I don't see it on YouTube either. Like that's
well, no, but like if you sub. You know what I mean? Like become a member.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Us normal YouTube civilians couldn't watch it, but if we paid them $5 a month,
sure,
maybe. Sure. Anyway, but whatever. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We've held the people long enough.
Yes.
We can discuss our business off the air, but yes, add Opinion Haver everywhere for me.
Yes, and if you want to contact the show outside of the chat during the week, you can hit at Smack Attack HMG on Twitter. You can head into those DMs, or you can email Smack Attack Hameen Media Group, HameenMedia@gmail.com. Obviously, I don't do these outros enough because I don't know what I'm saying half the time. But You can
That's
email
okay.
the show.
Neither does James.
Neither does James. Hey, love you, James. Not really. At Smack Attack HMG on Twitter again, and then just email the show, find us, get related, and let us know what's happening. Tell us your opinions, and I promise at some point I will bug James enough to open the mail sack because I know Candace Spaceman has sent a whole bunch of stuff in, and maybe after his holiday he'll be refreshed to open the mail sack, and we'll have that as part of the show again. I don't know. Who knows with that man? We don't even know if he killed the queen or not. He could be on the lam. You know?
That's what you call a cliffhanger.
Hey, find out next week.
Tune in next week to find out who killed the queen and if the mail sack will be open.
Exactly. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's our broadcast for the day. So have a great week and peace.